Hello, 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 hello. Alright. Alrighty then. Okay. We're gonna need a little bit of a warm up here. I always give it 10 minutes anyway before we start, but I need to kind of work up to this because I'm very tired. I have here a can of Celsius sparkling orange. I should caffeine content 200 milligrams. It's a lot of caffeine. I mean, maybe not for some people, but for me, that's a lot. So, I'll open you up, and hopefully that'll get the blood flowing. Whew. Alright, well, this will be the first thing that we're going to read today. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, we'll start off with some Star Wars. Hello, Super Pika 221. How are you? Welcome in. How you doing? We're gonna give it about 10 minutes or so before we actually start reading. But I have a bunch of stuff to show off. I like to show some of the things I've gotten recently, just while I'm killing time. Good, that's good. I'm glad. So here's some of the things that I've gotten lately. Some of these are actually new things that just came out like this month or last month. This is a Star Wars Ewok? I don't know, some new Ewok series that they started recently. Seems like a cool cover. I don't know. 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. Man, Star Wars is like 45 years old now. I saw this comic you had, and I have the 5th comic, I believe. It has part of episode 4. Oh, episode 4, you mean of my comic book series? Or episode 4 of Star Wars? Well, what are you referring to exactly? Part of this series? Star Wars. Okay. Like, let's see, the 5th comic. Okay, so let me pull it out. Let me see if this is what you are referring to. Here we go. This one? Star Wars number 5? Is that what you're talking about? Yes, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed the first 6 issues are just retelling the film, although they use the script to make it, not the actual film, because this came out before the film was finished. So it has some of the deleted scenes that were not in the film. So I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, the first 6 issues are retelling the first movie. And I really like that. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, it's got some of the cut features. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that one was a lot of fun to read. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing the comic adaptation of Empire Strikes Back. Because we're almost to 1980. I think this is like December? I think this might be November or December 1980, this issue's, or 1979, sorry. So we're going to be in 1980 real soon, which means very soon we're going to have Empire Strikes Back. Let me see how far away we are from that happening. I guess we're quite a few issues away still. Yeah, I'm just digging through here real quick. Here we go. Issue number 39. Looks like it's going to be Yeah, beginning the official comic adaptation of The Empire Strikes Back. All right, so that'll be in after this one, 9 more issues. So we're looking at 10 issues until we get to Empire. Not terribly far. It's only like a couple months for us. Looking forward to it. Should be fun. I wonder if there's anything cut from Empire. I actually don't know that much about the behind the scenes for Empire, if there were like deleted scenes or whatnot. I know a lot more about the original. But yeah, so we got Ewoks. This is, what is this? Star Wars 38. I don't know why, but I always really liked the what do they call it? Action figure variants, where they look like old vintage action figures, sort of things. I think they're pretty cool. I don't know. Yeah, this is the Dark Droids, done in the style of the Droids series. It's kind of neat. I've read this is the first one. I read this one. Didn't really go anywhere quite yet, but I don't know. Maybe it'll be interesting. I haven't read this one yet. Yeah. This series is still like coming out. I think this one came out like last week or 2 weeks ago or something. So they're still very, very new. Same with this one. I bought this one from my local comic shop. Vintage homage variant. It looks a lot like. Let's see if I can pull it out here. I can show you the comparison. 1 second. Way in the back here. Yeah, like it's kind of in the style of the Return of the Jedi 4-part series that they did. Oh my gosh, why is my camera... Every time I turn this thing on, it wants to turn autofocus back on. I like the manual focus. Sorry about that. That should be in focus. You don't know either? Okay, nice. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't actually read this one yet, but I just bought it because I like the cover. Just a sucker for cool covers, right? This was a cool series. I actually read part of this one. I didn't finish it, but these are all. It's a 4-part Bill and Ted comic series, and each cover is done in the style of a 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons, like the Dungeon Master Guide and the Player Guide and Monster Manual, stuff like that. So this one is an homage to the player guide, yeah. And then this is like the Dungeon Master Guide here. It's got George Carlin right there. And this one is I want to say like the Monster Manual. And then this one, I don't specifically remember this one, but each one like corresponds to like a 2nd edition D&D book, which I think is pretty neat. And they're pretty fun to read. I like them. It's not bad. It's better than the new movie. And then there's some Blade Runner. I actually really like some of the Blade Runner comics. This is the only one I've gotten recently, but they're pretty good. Pretty good. I also really like the Cyberpunk comics. They've done a really good job in the Cyberpunk. Some really good one of those. I might read some of those sometime. And then here we got another Dark Droids with the R2-D2 cover. I guess it's another variant of #1. I don't know. This is a facsimile of the Flash 105. Reminds you of Metal Gear art. Yeah, doesn't it? It is very reminiscent of that, yeah. I could see that, totally. Yeah, I like to buy the facsimiles whenever I can find them when they come out. Because usually they're pretty cheap, and they often get expensive later, but it's a good way to read a lot of the old books without having to, pay full price for them. Like here, look, Action Comics #1. It's like $1 million comic, but facsimiles are great because it still has all of the old ads and everything. It doesn't have, it's not ruined with like modern stuff, and you can read it the way it was like originally printed. So, but yeah, I've got the Flash here, and this I thought was really cool. Again, I bought it pretty much just for the cover because I thought it was cool. It's an homage to the Hulk. I believe that was Hulk number 240 that Todd McFarlane drew. Basically the same cover, Wolverine like that with the claws and Hulk in the reflection. So this is a total rip-off cover, but I thought it was really cool. It's Wolverine fighting the Predator. It's an interesting idea, and I had to buy the corresponding one as well. Even though I think these are both the same issue, I think they're both #1. But I mean, it's really cool. One's got the Predator with his claws and Wolverine reflected in it. Pretty cool. Cover sick. Hey, indie dev guy, how you doing? I think you saw a Carnage comic for $40 and had the original comic inside to read. Oh, that's cool. That is really cool. I like that. Yeah, I don't know. I just bought these mostly because of the covers. I thought they were really cool. But I kind of want to read it too. I think that seems it's an interesting premise. I want to see Wolverine fighting the Predator. Maybe I should read that on stream. Here we got a facsimile of Detective Comics number 58. Again, these are just, to get the originals is like unobtainable now, basically. You have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. And usually they'll be graded and they're old and delicate and whatnot, so I like to collect the facsimiles when I can find them. And here we go, look at this. Batman #1, the first appearance of Joker. I've always wanted to read it. But yeah, it's a facsimile. I actually bought several copies of this one. They even came in holographic. I personally don't really care for the holographic covers that much, but some people really like them. So I just bought a few to, I don't know, put back in the closet. Maybe I'll sell them in a few years or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'll keep one to read, and the other ones I'll probably sell at some point. Yes, these are reprints. They're facsimile reprints, which means they're reprinted exactly as they were originally printed. The paper, of course, is going to be different because comic manufacturing is just different now. But otherwise, you have a different price tag. It doesn't say 10 cents anymore. It's $6.99. I think there should be there's a barcode on the back. But otherwise, it is exactly as it was printed back in, it was like 1940, I think, when this came out. And I don't know if this one actually has ads. Yeah, it does. So it has the original ads, and everything is, it's all the same. It says at the bottom here, this comic reprinted here was produced in a time when racism played a larger role in society and popular culture, both consciously and unconsciously. It is presented here without alteration for historical reference. Yeah, so they put little like addendums. Usually there's a thing, I don't know if it's on this one, but usually they say like, All of the advertisements in this book are expired. Please do not try to purchase them. But yeah, it's cool because it lets you read these old comics that are just unobtainably expensive, for a good price. Now you can actually afford to read it. Just watched Rocky Horror Picture Show. Ready for some comic book? Nice, cool. Yeah, I'm just showing off some of the things that I have gotten recently before we get started here. Also, I need to kind of working up to it because I'm really tired and I'm trying to drink some of my caffeine drink and get some energy. So yeah, I really like the reprints there. And then we got, oh yeah, I forgot I got this in an auction last week. I got it pretty cheap. I think I got it for like $15 or something. But Tomb of Dracula #5. We've been reading some of the Tomb of Dracula books on here lately for October. Yeah, so I might do that one today. Maybe. My plan was actually for today to read Judge Death, The Life and Death of Judge Death. Yeah. I don't know if we'll get through the whole thing. It's actually quite lengthy, but I wanted to read some of that. And then here are some things I got in the auction. Just past couple weeks. Auctions and locally at my local comic shop, they had a bunch of cool stuff in. I think, are these here? Oh no, I think they're in a different pile actually. So this is just auction stuff. Never mind. Anyway, we got Tales of Suspense 76. That's old Captain America and Iron Man from the 60s. This one's probably like 1966, 67, somewhere around there probably. We got Avengers 151. Most of these here are just tie-ins with Ghost Rider, because we're reading through Ghost Rider. And I wanted to read all of his appearances in order, basically. Captain America 191. Don't really care about Captain America this late, especially, but it's a Ghost Rider connection or crossover or something. We got Marvel Team Up with Ghost Rider. And this stuff we'll get to later. This one, so this is actually what we'll be reading today for Ghost Rider. This is Champions #1. I didn't realize when I bought it, someone had like scribbled on the cover. I don't know. I don't know if that was like a store thing where they did that. A little irritating, but whatever. I bought it to read on the stream, so we'll read that. So I got the next few champions. I think we'll be doing champions for the next like 2, maybe 3 weeks for Ghost Rider. And then we'll get back to like Ghost Rider 13, 14, whatever we were on. So yeah, we got some different champions. Basically, the champions it's kind of like the Avengers, but with the lower tier guys, I guess. You've got Ghost Rider in there, of course, who that's why we're reading it. There's Hercules. We got Iceman from X-Men. Black Widow, it looks like, and Angel. Angel, also from X-Men. I don't know. It'll be interesting, but we'll get to that after we finish Star Wars today. So put that to the side, and we'll get to that. This, you have a lot of complete sets. I have a few. I'm working on a bunch. I'm working on Conan. I'm working on a lot of things, actually. X-Men, Spider-Man. I mean, those are like really long-term goals. But I have the complete Star Wars run. I have most of Ghost Rider, the original run. There's a few things here and there that I don't have, like why I bought the Champions, because I don't have the full set of Champions. But I'll have them by time we finish reading them. Hey Chaotic, what's up? How you doing? I have a full set of Dazzler, and I've got like the first 50 of Spawn that my brother collected back in the day, which was the entire McFarlane run. After that, he mostly just did covers. But yeah, this Conan pile is actually a lot that I got for fairly cheap, surprisingly, considering this is the first appearance of Red Sonja and is a very expensive issue. Um, it does have a like a hole punched through the price, which is what the stores would do back in the day to discount them sometimes, is they would just punch a hole through the price there. But yeah, my first appearance of Red Sonja, pretty awesome. Yeah, most of this just a bunch of Conan stuff that I got to fill in a few spots in my collection, and some of them I'll resell. But I love the early Conan. This is all the Barry Smith stuff. Really nice artwork on this. Big fan of Conan. Really big fan of Conan. The Thing in the Temple. The Devil God of Baal Sagoth. Look at that, number 8. The Keepers of the Crypt. Pretty sweet. Yeah, I love Conan. Conan's awesome. Let's see, what else we got? We got a few other things, not a lot. We have this, I guess I think I got this for like $8. Another auction. Hammer's Halls of Horror. It's like, I don't know, like a Hammer horror magazine. It's from the 70s. I think it's like 1978 or 79, somewhere around there. I'll probably flip through this in a little bit. We'll take a closer look at that. And then these are really cool. Anyone who's a regular here knows that I'm a really big fan of 2000 AD and Judge Dredd. These are similar to 2000 AD. It was another British weekly comic owned by IPC Magazines, which owned 2000 AD, and it shared a lot of the same artists and writers and stuff. People worked on that. This actually came out prior to 2000 AD. 2000 AD started in 1977, and this is February 1976. 2000 AD, I believe, would come out every Monday, and Battle Picture Weekly came out every Thursday. But these are primarily like World War II type stories. Very similar to 2000 AD. I believe it was Battle Picture Weekly that was actually in a lot of trouble because they were deemed too violent. They were like really violent, which I mean, if you've seen some of the 2000 AD stuff, it can get pretty gruesome. But I got these because they're, I don't know, they're really cool. And they have artwork stuff done by Carlos Esguerra, who is one of my favorite artists. He was a co-creator and designer of Judge Dredd. And here we have Major Easy. Actually, go in the back here. This is Major Easy's first appearance right here. His very first appearance. It was only $6. Couldn't believe it. But yeah, pretty freaking cool. Carlos Esguerra. I'll probably read some of these at some point. Achtung! But yeah, it's mostly like World War II war stories and stuff. Yeah, Carlos Esguerra artwork. This whole cover was Esguerra. Major Easy. He also did Rat Pack, which was just another World War II series, and it went on for a number of years. Yeah, I love these old British comic magazines from the 70s. I'm a big fan of those, so I try to collect them when I can. I think there's some One-Eyed Jack in there as well, which was actually like the proto Judge Dredd. It was not drawn by Ascara, but it was written by John Wagner, who is the other co-creator of Judge Dredd. And it was like very Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry inspired, tough cop guy, and a lot of those stories and stuff were directly inspirational to John Wagner's work on Dredd, which is kind of cool. Been trying to get the Star Wars Episode 1 through 6 in comics. Do you have any tips? Star Wars Episode 1 through 6? Well, let's see. So you want, like, the movie adaptations? Is that what you're looking for? This is a good place to start for the first one. These two right here are actually pretty cool. It's the Marvel Movie Showcase edition of the first Star Wars. It actually reprints the first 3 issues in one book here, and then 4, 5, and 6, the next 3 issues in here. And so these together are the first movie. So the entirety of the first movie in here. You could also look for the Star Wars Treasury editions, which are massive. They're like, I don't know, 1.5 feet tall, like 1 foot wide. They're really, really big books, and those are exactly these. There's 2 of those as well. They're just reprinted these things in much larger format. So yeah. That's probably your best bet for the 1977 movie. Would be this. Because collecting the individual issues can be fairly expensive for those ones nowadays. But the Marvel movie showcase versions are pretty affordable. And then, like I had shown you before, I don't know if there's a compilation series of this, but if you want Empire Strikes Back, there's a number of issues from like 39. I think it's probably another 6 issues or so. They've probably been adapted into like a book format or something, but yeah, this is your adaptation of Empire Strikes Back, which might be a little bit difficult to get now. I don't think they're terribly expensive, but let's see. I think one of them, this one is actually really expensive, unfortunately. This one's like, I don't know, $300-400. But I think they've actually made facsimiles of these, so if you just want to read it, you could get a facsimile of that, I think. And that's number 42. Otherwise, I think the Empire Strikes Back issues are not too expensive. Yeah, okay, so it's issues 39 to 44. So 39 through 44 of Star Wars is Empire Strikes Back. We'll probably get one of those? Okay, cool. Yeah, so 39 to 44 if you want Empire. And then Return of the Jedi was actually handled separately. I have to go find where the other ones are. But here's issue 2 and 4. So Return of the Jedi was its own 4-issue limited series. Technically separate from the main series, but it came out afterwards, and they just were like, all right, we got to cover Return of the Jedi, so we'll do that. These ones are not too expensive. I think they're probably like maybe $8 a piece, somewhere around there. So yeah, that's what I would get for these. Just look for the 4 issues. As for episode 1, 2, and 3, episode 1, 2, and 3, the later, like the prequels, I honestly have no idea. I really don't. Those would have, if there's a comic adaptation, they would have been done by Dark Horse, because Dark Horse was the one who had the rights to Star Wars during that time. It was only around 2013, I guess, 13, 14, when Disney purchased Star Wars and Marvel and got the rights to the Star Wars Marvel comic, the comic stuff, whatever, and started doing Marvel Star Wars again. But from like I would say from like 1990 to 2010 was all Dark Horse. You found a hard copy of Star Wars 5? Oh, okay. Well, that'd be good. Yeah, then I think the last thing I have to show is this little guy, which is pretty cool. This is a kind of like a Big Little Book. This is the Better Little Book. Captain Midnight and the Sheikh Jomak Khan from the famous newspaper strip. I actually won this really cheap. I got it for like $10. I think it's worth maybe like, I don't know, maybe 100, something like that. I might resell it. I don't know, but it kind of fell through the cracks. But this is from 1946, I believe. Is that right? Yeah, this is from 1946. Very old little book. It's kind of cool. I kind of want to read it, but it's also, it's a little delicate because, it's like 80 years old. But yeah, I like these kinds of things. They're kind of neat. Anyway. Alrighty. I guess that's enough. Yeah, we can get started on our reading for today. Already spent 30 minutes. That's fine. Okie dokie. Well, here we go. Let's get started. Get a drink of water here. Sorry. Okay. Let's open you up. Personally, if you don't care too much about the book, go ahead, but if you do, then don't read it. Yeah, I don't know. I'll think about it. I'll see what I want to do. Alrighty, here we go. Marvel Comics Group. Adventures beyond the greatest space fantasy film of all. Star Wars. Trapped in an Imperial stronghold. A princess alone. So we got some stormtroopers in this issue. That's cool. Let's see. Zoom in. Long ago, in a galaxy far, far away, there exists a state of cosmic civil war. A brave alliance of underground freedom fighters has challenged the tyranny and oppression of the awesome galactic empire. This is their story. Continuing the saga, begun in the film by George Lucas, released by 20th Century Fox. Archie Goodwin is still the writer and editor. Carmine Infantino and Gene Day as artists. Okay, Gene Day is doing the inking this one, or this issue. We read last week in the letters to the editor, the Star Words, that the reason why the inking keeps switching between Bob Wysack and Gene Day is because of the British release, because the British release is weekly, and so they were basically working on Star Wars twice as quickly as their other comics to get that done and keep it up for the British release. And to do that, they needed to bring in Gene Day as an extra inker. So that's why we have a different inker this issue. Joe Rosen is the letterer. Petra Goldberg, colorist. I don't know if we had Petra Goldberg before. I think that might be a new colorist. Then we have Jim Shooter as consulting editor. Ooh, Princess Story. Hey, Lake Guts. Slip Mad, what's up? $1.75 for a pocket spy scope? Whoa. Pen-sized 8-power telescope. Spots objects blocks away. Great for watching sports, girls, spying. Power lens, optically ground to view every detail. X-ray specs. An amazing illusion. Apparently see through bones, through skin, through clothes, etc. Thrill and embarrass your friends. Alright. A Princess Alone. That's it, Your Highness. Metalorn! Just one in hundreds of Imperial factory planets. Hardly seems the kind of place the Alliance should be sending its best-known leader. Perhaps, Captain, that's the reason they decided to send me. Star Wars is published by Marvel Comics Group. This is December 1979. This is our last 1970s issue for Star Wars, you guys. After this, we're in the 80s. The last issue of the 70s. Oh man, 70s are almost over. Enjoy it while it lasts. There we go. Sorry. Alright. Sorry, I'm just trying to adjust this. Okay, hopefully that's good. Okay. What do you think the Soviets are going to be up to in the 2000s? I don't know, probably colonizing the moon. There we go. Okay. Well, strategy's not my department, Princess Leia. Long as this old cargo orbiter's clearances don't get checked too closely. Getting in and out shouldn't be a problem. Captain, is that a subtle way of hinting that the problem will be while I'm there? Don't you think I can pass as part of the local labor force? Yeah, that's cool art. I like that. The surface of Metalorn is chaos. Shifting gray ash, barren rock, great fiery pits of molten slag. But below that surface is order. Clean, gleaming metal, filtered air, unending artificial light, and the disciplined hand of the Empire. You down there! Woman! You're violating the work formation. Maintain your rank and file on the slideway. You'll be moving again shortly. Shift 114E is now disembarking at junction 206994. Tammy, you shouldn't be out here. Well, it's not much like being a senator or a member of the Royal House of Alderaan, but I guess that's not my department either. There's a chance, Captain, I may be able to bring something here an ordinary spy couldn't. Oh, sorry, that's up here. Whoops. One thing's sure, Your Highness, whatever you're bringing, odds are these poor folks don't have it. There you go. Pretty cool art. Whoa! Gunfighting do's and don'ts. The first thing to do, pick the right chew. New Hubba Bubba, the soft and juicy bubblegum. Scanline Heroes! Hey, thank you for the raid. Thank you. Can we get a shout out for Scanline Heroes? Thank you for the follow, Card Captor Zakuro 380. Welcome in. Scanline Heroes is an awesome name. Yeah, it is. That is a pretty cool name. Welcome in. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. How you doing? Hello, Slippy. How's it going? What's up? What were you up to? You were playing retro. What were you playing? Welcome in. We were just getting started, actually, on Star Wars issue number 30. A Princess Alone. Got some pretty cool artwork on the last page here. Check this out. Hello, Feckless Finn. That's a pretty cool name, too. Hello, you came from Scanline Heroes. Awesome. Awesome. Well, welcome in, everybody. Yeah, we're just getting started today with reading. We're going to read Star Wars, and then we are going to move on to our Ghost Rider book of the week, which is Champions number 1. Thank you for the follow, Feckless Finn. Appreciate it. There you go. Yeah, Champions number 1 will be next. And then we've got a few other things to read. We'll see where we go from there. Probably do a Dracula as well. Tomb of Dracula. But yeah, welcome in, everybody. What were you playing? Sorry. Yeah, I was just reading this ad for Hubba Bubba. Gum fighting do's and don'ts. The first thing to do, pick the right chew. New Hubba Bubba, the soft and juicy bubble gum with amazing no-stick bubbles. Then proceed with the simple yet effective gum fight drill. 1. Begin blowing bubble. Note Hubba Bubba's incredibly large bubble. When the Hubba Bubba bubble breaks, do not be alarmed. Simply remove Hubba Bubba from your face. That's right. Simply remove and replace in mouth. Return to step 1. Repeat drill 10 times. The proper stance. Gumfighter hat is optional. Hubba Bubba bubble should be facing your opponent. Keep elbows akimbo. 93 degrees on your arm. Note soft, juicy, and delicious Hubba Bubba close at hand. Knees slightly bent forward. Feet planted firmly on the ground. Big guy blowing little bubble. Little guy blowing big Hubba Bubba bubble. Your size is not important. The size of your bubble is. And that means choosing the right bubble gum. Hubba Bubba, because when it comes to great, big, fat bubbles, nothing sizes up to a Hubba Bubba bubble. Note proper stance. Except no substitutes. This boy did. And now instead of wearing a smile, he's wearing a paper bag over the bubble gum stuck to his face. Definitely not new, soft, and juicy Hubba Bubba bubblegum. Does Hubba Bubba really work? Absolutely. Hubba Bubba is Gumfighter tested and approved. Dadgum my bubblegum. So pick up a pack of new Hubba Bubba in original or mint flavor. Enjoy that soft, juicy, delicious taste. Plus those great big Hubba Bubba bubbles that won't stick to your face. Soft, juicy, and delicious Hubba Bubba bubblegum. Amazing no-stick bubbles. Big bubbles, no troubles. Alright. Look, Mommy, they left some ground uncovered. I saved seeds from the breakfast fruit. Gonna plant them. Tammy, you're supposed to be in the learning center. It's only until next week. Then when my work shift is over, we'll have a whole day together. So go inside before... I will, Mommy. Soon as my garden's planted. Darling, nothing can grow on Metalorn. It's a factory planet. All its resources are drained for industry. When it's all used up, the Empire will move us to another world. But maybe nothing grows because nobody tries, Mommy. I'm gonna give my seeds special care and... This is not an approved visitation period, woman. Back to the slideway. Move fast. If I have to report you, you'll lose your free time credits. Now you, get to your instruction unit. And no more of this. Garbage belongs to disposals, not buried on a public thoroughfare. If you want to grow something, request transfer to an agri-planet when you're of age. Damn. That sucks. I like this guy's glasses, though. Those are cool glasses. Meanwhile, in one of the highest of the underground city's monolithic towers, Baron Tag, the head of the galaxy's most renowned industrial concern, visiting my humble factory world. What an unexpected pleasure. Pleasure doesn't enter into it, Governor Corwith. My presence on Metalorn amounts to penance. The failure of one Tag project against the Rebel Alliance left the Emperor doubting all of them. To reassure him, I'm forced to personally check each one. You'll gain an easy endorsement here, dear fellow. Scuttled by Luke in Star Wars number 25 and 26, Accountable Arch. Thanks to your Tag weapons detection system and my own informational control program, the rebellion doesn't exist on Metalorn, not even as a rumor. My system can detect unauthorized arms or explosives brought onto your planet, Governor. It doesn't preclude unarmed spies slipping past normal security. And so an occasional one might, my dear Baron. But then what? Sabotage? To do any real damage, they'd have to steal a stormtrooper's weapon. Difficult at best. Since your excellent system also monitors those, so in our regimented society, it is almost impossible to... Sir, we've got a condition read, post 994203. Pulse beat sensors indicate monitored weapon is no longer in authorized hands. Someone seems to have done the difficult, Corwith. The impossible may not be far behind. Post 994203. We found the trooper monitor control. Playback of his recording unit indicates he stopped a lone female coming from the docking area for routine questioning. He was about to check an irregularity on her papers when she attacked. The assailant was clever, used adhesive spray from a first aid pack to clog the ventilation system of our man's armor. The rebels are insidious, Baron Tag, turning a harmless item into a weapon to circumvent your detection system. The quarry has moved into the sublevels, Governor. Heavy equipment there is causing fade on her pulse beat, but we still have a strong monitor fix on the blaster itself, sir. Alert all the men it takes. Follow that signal. Instead of arming herself, our little spy will find she's tied a noose to her neck. And the further and faster she runs, the tighter it's going to get. High school diploma and ring, yours through home study. Our 10 years in service, 1 million comics in stock. We are well known as the specialists in Marvel and DC Comics. Send 50 cents for illustrated comic catalog. Clint's Comics, Kansas City, Missouri. Comic collectors, send 25 cents for our complete list of Marvel and DC Comics. Golden Age comic list, send $1. Marvel Comic, lowest prices. We guarantee the lowest prices on Marvel Comics, over 100,000 in stock in 5 different conditions. Fast service, satisfaction guaranteed. For free catalog, sent to JNS Comics, 150 Bridge Avenue, Red Bank, New Jersey. 3 mil comic bags, $3 per 100 bag. Comic Convention, September 29 to 30 in Chicago at Pick Congress Hotel, 520 South Michigan. Buy, sell 1 million comics. Meet Marvel artists and writers. Events, film, art shows. Free info. Write Creation, 421 7th Avenue, Suite 908, New York, New York. Skinny? Can't complete? Win. Gain pounds, inches, and confidence. Too skinny because you don't eat right? Weight On's calories can help fill out, shape your entire body. Follow us to fun and adventure every Saturday morning on ABC TV. Start your morning with the world's greatest super friends. Superman, Batman and Robin, and Wonder Woman. The League of Justice faces a weekly battle with the dastardly Legion of Doom. Sorry. New episodes. All new. The all-new Plastic Man Comedy Adventure Show. Meet Plastic Man and his friends. Mighty Man and Yuck, the world's ugliest dog. Rickety Rocket, Fang Face, and introducing Fang Puss. Next, meet Spider Woman in her brand new show. And Scooby and Scrappy Doo bring you all new surprises. And don't forget to watch all new, all different, and exciting escapades on ABC's Weekend Special and the Disco Dazzle of Dick Clark's American Bandstand. ABC Saturdays, best on ABC. Check local listings for time and channel. Those sleep imprinting sessions on the journey here seem to have worked. I have enough information about Metalorn to keep one step ahead of his pursuit. At least until I can... Halt! This is not an authorized passageway. Get over here before... A blaster. How did you... By acting while you stormtrooper types are still talking. Ba-dow! Fazak! Just what I feared. The more I shoot, the quicker I draw them to me. And here comes the bunch that was already following me. Well, I wanted to go forward. Fa-doom! Fa-doom! Now I have no choice. Fa-doom! She's reached the ore conveyor. It'll carry her out of the chamber. Okay, more ads. Alright. More bombastic paperbacks from Marvel. Our newest trio, just for you in full color. Doctor Strange, Master of the Mystic Arts, calendar 1980. The all-new 1980 Marvel calendar featuring Doctor Strange. Model X-Wing Fighter 649. TIE Fighter model, plus all-new Star Wars Vans, R2-D2, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, 249. Also, Star Wars figure models, C-3PO, R2-D2, Darth Vader, 549 each. Marvel Comics in paperbacks. Each of these books reprint in full color, 6 comic books starting with the first issue of each title. Newest editions, Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, Captain America number 1, Hulk number 1 and 2, Doctor Strange number 1, Conan 1, 2, 3, and 4, Fantastic Four number 1, each book only $2.60. Special any 4 for $9.50. All new original stories in paperback. Incredible Hulk and Cry of the Beast, or Stalker from the Stars, or video novels, Spider-Man and Mayhem Manhattan, Fantastic Four and Doomsday, Captain America and Holocaust for hire, Iron Man and Call My Killer MODOK, each $2.60, including postage and handling. Special, get the set of 7 for $16.99. Stan Lee presents the Marvel Superheroes, featuring the Hulk, the Avengers, the X-Men, and Daredevil, edited by Len Wein and Marv Wolfman. Spider-Woman, featuring 6 amazing adventures, $2.25 plus 60 cents. Marvel Superheroes, $1.95 plus 60 cents postage and handling. The Amazing Spider-Man, $1.95, or choose from these other great paperback selections. Star Wars! Relive the excitement of the movie with the newest space vehicle of the fleet, the Millennium Falcon, complete with lights and moving parts for $12.99. This set of NPC wheels gets you this set of NPC wheels free. On every NPC 1980 annual car model kit, you'll find golden wheel tokens. When you save 20 tokens, we'll send you your choice of a free NPC model. 1980 Camaro Z28, Monza, Monte Carlo, Duster, or GMC El Diablo. Each model is the exact replica of the real-life car, loaded with custom parts and decals. The complete details of the Golden Wheels giveaway are inside all your favorite NPC 1980 annual car kits. The best models come from the best kits. NPC, available in the US only. Camaro Z28, now that's a car. Yeah, I know you like those old cars, don't you? Sorry. The rebel spy has eluded the pursuit squads, Governor Corwith. Shall I have the conveyor halted and cut off the ore flow to the planet's furnaces? Cause a temporary shutdown? That would be doing the Alliance's work for them, you fool. Even my information control couldn't hide something like that. As long as we're monitoring the weapon, she can't escape. Order out more units. Have them converge on the signal. Naturally, all this activity won't go unnoticed by our worker citizens. See that they have a reasonable and false explanation. Do not be alarmed. This is merely a security test for your protection. Maintain your workstations. This is, I repeat, a test. Monitor indicates she's staying with the ore conveyor, sir. She must intend to sabotage to one of the furnaces. But we'll have every available unit waiting to cut her off at Smelter Bay 5. Sneeze gonna happen? No? No sneeze? Okay. Excellent. You hear that, Tag? This whole nasty episode is just going to wind up proving that the system still works. Baron? He rushed out earlier, Governor, when the trouble started. Odd. He never had the reputation of a man who shied away from trouble. Perhaps that was before his run-in with Darth Vader. Being blinded by a lightsaber, forced to rely on cyber vision, would make anyone, cautious. A tale yet to be chronicled. Oh, okay. We're getting a little bit of a hint for a story that hasn't happened yet. Interesting. Ah, well. We have better things to do than ponder the aristocratic psyche. How does the hunt go? How does the hunt progress? The last unit is now in position in Smelter Bay 5, Governor Corwith, and the monitor shows the ore conveyor is speeding the rebel spies straight into their waiting guns. The next car will be the one. Set all blasters at low-level intensity. We want to destroy the woman, not the conveyor. At my command... we got more ads. Jeez. Wowie zowie. CBS Saturday mornings looking good. 8 o'clock Eastern Time. The New Adventures of Mighty Mouse and Heckle and Jekyll. Heckle and Jekyll get their kicks. They're wacky, wild, and up to tricks. Mighty Mouse saves the day, zapping foes who stand in his way. 9 o'clock, the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner Show. Beep, beep. Beep, beep. That Whittleway Wabbit is having a ball with Daffy, Tweety, and laughter for all. Then Speedy Roadrunner zooms faster than light. Coyote can't catch him, try as he might. At 10:30, the all-new Popeye Hour. Popeye the Sailor is second to none. Olive and Bluto add to the fun. At 11:30, the new Fat Albert Show. It's action, it's laughs, it's time to get down. Those funky kids are back in town. At 12 o'clock, Jason patrols the far reaches of space where new and exciting adventures take place. Jason of Star Command. Live action. At 12:30, Tarzan and the Super 7. The King of the Jungle challenges crime. Batman's a hero, time after time. The Freedom Force conquers all villains they meet, plus more great heroes who cannot be beat. At 1:30, 30 minutes, live action. What's new, what's now, where's the action today? Great topics and stories are coming your way. In the news, exciting reports, news up to the minute about your world and what's happening in it. Alright. Is that a Batman cartoon series, or is that... This gotta be a Batman cartoon series, right? Tarzan and the Super 7. Okay, maybe it's a Tarzan series that had Batman in it? I'm actually not sure about that. Hold on one second. I gotta grab a tissue. It's my nose. I gotta sneeze. Sorry. Okay. Shop by mail. Free. $1 million cash. Comic books. Banana stamp and 110 others. Only 10 cents. Coconut stamp. Poem set to music. 50-year-old. 15 different stamps. Oh, Golden State Comics and Atlas Body. Dragon Lady Nostalgia. Alright. Well, let's continue. Fire! Shtoom! Bacow! Vado! Pew, pew, pew. The rebel's not in the car, only the stolen weapon. Now it's clear why the good Baron fled. He must have known his weapon detection system would fail us. In all fairness, Governor, the system worked. Who could anticipate the Alliance agent using it to decoy us after the blaster instead of her? Is that supposed to comfort me? The woman's deadly, and there are miles of endless corridors and byways she could have vanished into while we chase the signal from that gun. Find her. If it takes every stormtrooper on Metalorn, find that rebel witch. Now get 4 titles for the price of 3. Subscribe to 3 Marvel Mags and receive the 4th title free. And remember, all titles are mailed flat. All right, what would you guys subscribe to? What do you think? We got Amazing Spider-Man, Avengers, Captain America, Conan, Daredevil. And this is 1979. Going into 1980 here. The Defenders, Doctor Strange, Fantastic Four, Galactica. I assume that's Battlestar Galactica, maybe? I don't know. Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Marvel Tales featuring Spider-Man, Marvel Team Up, Spider-Man Versus, Marvel 2-in-1 issues starring The Thing, Man-Thing, Master of Kung Fu, Micronauts, Power Man, ROM, Spectacular Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, Spidey Super Stories, Star Wars, Thor, What If, and X-Men. 1979, which ones would you guys subscribe to? I think I'd be into Amazing Spider-Man, Star Wars, X-Men. Let's see, 1979. 79. Definitely late 70s X-Men was awesome. Spider-Man also awesome. If I could only choose 4, Amazing Spider-Man, X-Men, Star Wars, and probably Spectacular Spider-Man, I guess. Maybe that. So many ads, yeah, I know. The Defenders, Master of Kung Fu, X-Men, and Amazing Spider-Man as your 4th free title. Awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, wasn't it, was it Master of Kung Fu that Sabretooth first appeared in? Or is that Iron Fist? It might have been Iron Fist. Let me check, actually. Sabretooth first appearance was Iron Fist. Okay, Iron Fist number 14, that was August 1977. That was the first appearance of Sabretooth. Okay. I don't think Iron Fist... Yeah, Iron Fist is not an option on here, so... Iron Fist. I think Power Man might have been... I know Iron Fist and Power Man were teamed up for a while or something. They combined them at some point. I forget. I don't know. Anyway, let's continue. Sorry. But I had a few copies of Master of Kung Fu and you could read more. Yeah, I found a lot of them for sale, but they're always more expensive than I really want to pay for them. They seem cool, but Yeah, it's not one that I've really ever gotten a hold of. Alright, let's continue. Governor Corwith himself will give the full details on the spectacular security test in a later transmission. Now a local reminder. Shifts 114E and 111B. You have 9 minutes left on your meal period. Arn Harada? Do I know you, young woman? You're not on my shift. No, I'm from your past, when you traveled from here to Alderaan to instruct a little girl in galactic history. Leia, Professor Harada, Princess Leia Organa. No, are you trying to get me in trouble? Alderaan is destroyed, obliterated by a meteor storm. Central Information told us that long ago. None of the royal house survived. None! They lied to you, Professor. I'm here to tell you the truth. And to enlist him in bringing the rebellion to Metalorn, Princess. Ooh, does he have a lightsaber? Does Baron Tag have a lightsaber? Holy crap. You're Baron Tag! Yes. Since you have most of the area's troopers on a wild goose chase in the sub-levels, I thought someone should be waiting when you contacted your old instructor. How could you know? While Imperial Governor Corwith was delighting in Metalorn's weapon detection system, I decided to get a voice print from the recording unit of that stormtrooper you dispatched. Once that was identified from the known enemies file, it was just a matter of finding which citizen here might have a previous connection to you. Why the Alliance would let its most renowned leader risk her life attempting to recruit some broken, useless former historian eludes me. I'll let you explain that to the Emperor when I deliver you personally. Since he wouldn't understand any more than you do, let's not bother with the trip. She just threw food in his face. Blast you, woman, for that! Shrek! You'll visit the Emperor as a corpse. But with his cyber vision blocked, the threat is easier made than carried out. And even as Tag struggles to clear his lenses of food paste, unseen obstacles appear. Professor Harada kicked the chair into his path. Given the opportunity... Indie Dev Guy! Hey, 15 months, holy moly. Thank you so much, Indie Dev Guy. Appreciate it. Tier 3 even, man. Man, so kind. Thank you so much. Given the opportunity, the princess moved swiftly to capitalize on it, using the energy shackles meant for her. Don't stand like unprogrammed droids. An enemy of the Emperor is escaping. But the Emperor has no enemies. The daily information broadcast assures us of this. Put stars in your t-shirts. Cheryl Ladd, Suzanne Summers, Kiss Rock Group, Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. Color photo iron-ons from Whoppers. Set of all four, $2 value, only $1, and a Whoppers wrapper, or $1.25 without wrapper. Brighten your t-shirts, jackets, book bags with sensational star photos in brilliant color. These iron-ons apply in a minute with a hot iron and are fully washable, durable, permanent, and wearable. Get today's superstars from Whoppers. The Superstar malted milk candy covered with rich cocoa coating. Reach for Whoppers and send for the stars. You can always tell a Whopper when you hear one crunch. And here's the ad again for your own personalized trading card, which I read last week, I believe. Awesome idea. I would love that. Imagine having your own trading cards, like with you on them. That'd be so cool. I want my own trading cards. That's awesome. What a cool idea. Alright. And matters of disobedience are only to be settled by Imperial troopers. Yes, where are the stormtroopers? Already chasing that witch down a false trail. Vroom! Move, you misinformed dolts! Clear my way to the nearest exit. That's where she was headed. The Baron plunges on. The excitement fades. The crowd disperses. Thanks for the cover, young lady. You're very brave to help me. It was fun. I understand, because sometimes I get in trouble too. Only, aren't you scared with stormtroopers and everybody chasing you? Very. But sometimes, when you believe in something enough, you can do it anyway. Even if everyone else says you can't? That it's impossible? Maybe especially then. Now, I can't stay any longer, sweetheart. May the Force be with you. The Force? And as the rest of Shift 114 and Instruction Unit 51, thank you for the follow, Pusherman555. Appreciate it. Instruction Unit 51 rush through what's left of their meal period. Leia Organa vanishes into the labyrinth corridors of Metalorn, watched only by a girl named Tommy. Princess Leia Organa, right here on my planet, and she slips through our fingers. I blame you for this, Tag, keeping her presence secret so you could regain the Emperor's favor by capturing her yourself. And I blame your governing policies and the stupid handling of the whole affair. Neither stance will undo what's happening. I can at least reassure the Emperor by executing that old man, Arn Harada. Any retaliation to him is like an admission that you've lied about the rebellion and that the Empire quakes in fear of it. But I'm the governor. There must be something I can do. Yes, you can keep quiet, not trouble the Emperor or Metalorn's citizens any more than they already are. That's my advice, and even if it's wrong, what the nice thing about it is, you won't be any worse off than you are now. Meanwhile, we're safe for now, Your Highness. Those Imperial patrol ships weren't prepared for an old cargo orbiter to have super light drive. Too bad Baron Tag ruined the mission before we could talk with Professor Harada. I believe the important part of the mission was accomplished, Captain. Alright, we'll come to that in a minute. With all respect, Princess Leia, how? Nothing was sabotaged. No resistance force established. What's different about Metalorn now than before we arrived? You're making the same mistake the Empire does, Captain. There's more to the rebellion than guerrilla warfare. A teacher, a historian like Arn Harada can eventually lead a resistance when it's safe. Not to fight, but to pour sand in the Imperial war machine. But first, he and the others there needed to be shown there was a rebellion, to see that its leaders survive and continue the fight, to give Metalorn what it's been lacking before. Hope. A blaster isn't constructed right. Transceiver sets get faulty parts. Oh, okay. And on the Imperial-controlled factory planet left behind, a young girl sneaks away from her instruction unit during play period. A young girl named Tommy. Task accomplished, she sits down and waits. Waits for her seeds to grow. Patiently, hopefully. Next issue, Return to Tatooine. Alrighty. What do you guys think of that story? Is there no Star Wars in this issue? I don't think there's actually a letter to the editor this issue. Alright, we'll read the bullpen bulletin here in a second. Any thoughts on that story? Pretty good story. I love the Hubba Bubba ad the most. That was kind of the highlight, wasn't it? Oh boy, looks like I did it again. I've been so excited about our new upcoming mag, Epic, that I tried to clue you in to our progress as much as possible here in the soapbox. And judging by your enthusiastic mail, I could tell you eagerly shared the excitement. However, some letters of complaint have been trickling in. reminding me that I had pledged not to hawk any products in this column, and now I seem to be disregarding that promise. So I'm telling you forthwith, the last thing I wanted to do was lay a huckster bid on you. Honest. I consider the news about Epic to be the most interesting, heaviest info I could give you. And I also figured you'd be hopping mad if our newest and most important publication were to go on sale without your being notified well in advance. Anyway, here's what I'm leading up to. It's time for another maniacal Marvel poll. If you can spare a minute or two, I'd really appreciate your sending us a card or letter telling us whether you'd like to continue reading notices of upcoming projects here in the soapbox, or if you'd rather I was wax eloquent about any old subject that can't possibly be considered as shilling for your shekels. As usual, the valiant voices of Marveldom assembled will give us our order, and we'll tell you what your cumulative verdict is as soon as Irving Forbush can tabulate the votes. Of course, you know what sly little devils we are. Even if I don't mention E.C. anymore, see, I didn't even write out the whole name, you can bet that jaunty Jimmy Shooter will toss it at ya in some other scintillating sections of these pandemonious pages. Anyway, you can relax for next issue, because when we meet again, I've got a whole new subject to hit you with. I've been out here in Hollywood, California for the past 2 weeks, and I'm really busting to clue you in on some of our upcoming movie and TV projects. So till later, keep cool and hang loose. Howie may be a duck, but never a goose. Excelsior, Stan. Hey, there's Marvel Comics #1 right there. That's cool. Okay, alright. Okay, sorry. Wow, how time flies when you're having fun. Did you know that some 40 years ago, give or take a month, the very first Marvel comic went on sale? Marvel Comics #1, the cover of which is reproduced below, featured a bunch of nifty new characters, among them the Submariner, the Angel, and the Human Torch. It seems like only yesterday, well, maybe last week. Anyway, Marvel Comics is still hanging in there, bigger, better, and stronger than ever, carrying on the proud tradition begun by Carl Burgos, Paul Gustafson, Bill Everett, and other folks. And a word to the wise, you ain't seen nothing yet. Along those nostalgic lines, it just so happens that this month, Simon & Schuster is releasing its latest collection of superhero adventures featuring the best of Captain America, including the very first comic story ever written by Stan Lee, back in 1943. If Sly Stan is telling us the truth about his age these days, then he must have been only 3 years old back then. Anyway, it's all classic stuff by the master himself, and it's all in full glorious color, illustrated by Jack Kirby, Gene Colan, Jim Steranko, and others. It's only $12.95 in hardback. Oh, sorry. And just $3.95 a steal in paperback for 128 big 7x10 pages of excitement. Not to mention the snazzy cover painted by Dave Cockrum. Oh my god, I'm just so sneezy today. Buzz on down to your favorite bookstore and grab one, friend, and tell the clerk that Nick Fury sent you. After about 100 folks tell him that, he'll think he's the one who's crazy. Hello, Diggler Dirk, how you doing? What's up? Sorry, I'm just like really sneezy all of a sudden. Hopefully I can get through these today. Secrets behind the comics department. Did you know that writer-editor Archie Goodwin not only scripts our widely acclaimed Star Wars comic, but actually provides ace artist Carmine Infantino with rough sketches of the action in every single panel? No wonder they call him Artful Archie. Did you know that Marvel 2-in-1 co-scripters Mark Grunwald and Ralph Macchio actually write alternating pages of the same story? We can't tell which pages are whose, can you? A no prize to the fans who spot some stylistic clue that provides a surefire way to tell Grueno from Macchionwald. Oops, well, whatever. Did you know that in certain high professional circles, editor Roger Stern is regarded as the best in the business at placing word balloons? Now you do. Oh, gosh. Second. Gosh, just happened all of a sudden here. My nose just started. My nose is nose good. It's nose good. Just the other day, a couple of members of the hot new rock group, Susan, dropped by the old bullpen to hobnob with their buddy, assistant editor Jim Salacrip, and to check out our operation. Overwhelmed, well, maybe just whelmed, by the sheer splendor of Mighty Marvel were Charles Leland, lead guitarist, and Mick Leland, drums. Their first album, entitled Falling in Love Again, was just recently released, and it's bound to be a smash. Best of luck, troops. Micronauts are on sale monthly. Occasionally, we've been told we tend to brag just a bit when we're waxing eloquent over our latest works of wonder. Now, of course, that's not true. But just to satisfy those few critics, this month we're going to tell you what's coming up with modesty and decorum. Spider-Woman, number 21, portrays a rather dramatic turnabout in the life of our heroine. A whole new cast of characters is introduced, all of whom we feel you'll find interesting. We humbly suspect that perhaps some people might feel that this issue will eventually become a collector's item. Master of Kung Fu, number 83, contains an amiable tale. It is of some note that Fu Manchu returns therein. In addition, we feel that the art and writing are deftly done. Micronauts number 12 is reasonably nice, in that it adequately portrays a life-or-death battle between Prince Akrayir and his decidedly evil brother, Shaitan. We would also like to recommend Machine Man number 12 and Ghost Rider number 39, which is now monthly, by the way, and Doctor Strange number 38, which is the first issue by new scripter Chris Claremont. Space does not permit us to extol the various virtues of these issues. However, we feel that they are worth their purchase price. All of the above, by the way, are on sale now. There? Satisfied? You don't know how hard that was. And so we're really excited enough about the preceding issues to light up the sky. We can't wait till next month to get back to brag. Oops, our normal. See ya! Spider-Man meets Jujitsu. How do I get into these things? I go out to the deli, and look what I run into. Jujitsu. Jujitsu, gorgeous but evil, expert in karate, kung fu, and other martial arts. It would be easier running into a bus and being clobbered. If I could keep her hands busy, I could take care of her feet before they take care of me. Hey, wait! Catch these, Junie. Another trick, webhead. Twinkies cakes, my favorite. Delicious, golden, spongy cakes. Fluffy creamed fillings. I'll finish these, then I'll finish off Spider-Man. Thanks to Hostess, June won't be busting out all over for quite a while. Thanks for the delicious Twinkie cakes, webhead, but we'll meet again. I have a feeling that's a threat, not a promise. You get a big delight in every bite of Hostess Twinkies cakes. Alrighty, well, there you go. Oh, yeah, this is kind of cool ad. It says, new electronic action toy, ROM, has come. Evil is on the run. From outer space to the pages of Marvel Comics, to your toy store comes the mighty champion of justice and truth, the greatest of all space knights. ROM's energy analyzer lights up bright red and makes strange electronic sounds. Pretend it allows ROM to see if creatures are good or evil. ROM's translator makes eerie electronic sounds and lights up. Imagine ROM has the ability to communicate with any intelligent being in the universe. ROM's weapon is the neutralizer. It flashes and makes electronic zapping sounds. Pretend it sends evil creatures to the Shadow Zone. ROM the Space Knight is a microelectronic toy from Parker Brothers. His rocket pods light up. His respirator makes realistic breathing sounds. And the 3 accessories shown not only light, but make dramatic electronic sounds. 9-volt battery not included. You can pretend he has come from a galaxy far, far away to share heroic adventures with you. ROM the Space Knight by Parker Brothers. And Lego. 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 Alright. Well, there you go. There you go. Any final thoughts on Star Wars issue number 30? Any comments you'd like to make before we move on? Hubba Bubba ad was pretty good. Hubba Bubba. Alrighty. Alright. Okay, so here is Defenders number 1, which has been drawn upon. God dang it. I was really irritated. I did not even notice that when I bought it. It was an online purchase. Well, whatever. Whatever. Here we go. The Champions, number 1. Hercules, Black Widow, Angel, Ghost Rider, and Iceman. Action-packed first issue. Onward, my comrades! The time has come to face our greatest foes. This is it. The pulse-pounding origin of the most sensational new supergroup of all. Alright, let's go. Stanley presents the power-packed premiere of all in this mighty Marvel Renaissance. The world still needs the champions. Starring the Avenging Angel, the Deadly Black Widow, the Doom-defying Ghost Rider. Starring Hercules, Prince of Power, the Indomitable Iceman, and guest starring the Astounding Venus. Series conceived and written by Tony Isabella. Penciled by Don Heck. Inked by Mike Esposito. Lettered by Dave Hunt. Colored by Petra Goldberg. Okay. Edited by Marv Wolfman. This is going to be pretty neat, I think. I hope so. I've never read any of the Champions. I don't know anything about it. This is my first time reading any of it, so... The Champions is published by Marvel Comics Group. Wish my nose wasn't so stuffy. October 1975. Hey, another October issue. That's cool. Alright, let's see here. Two young men stroll the UCLA campus this sunny autumn morning. In the past, the world has known them as mutants, or freaks, or renegades, or on rare occasions, as world savers. But we have seen them in all those roles before today. They are merely two confused young men. It's not working for you either, is it, Bobby? Good shot, Warren. Professor X was great, getting me a scholarship here and all. But I guess college isn't what this little mutant is looking for. I'd go back to the X-Men. Except they aren't the same X-Men that we grew up with. I know. I read in the paper how Hank is making it big in the Avengers. Maybe. Come on, little buddy. Do you really think we'd fit in with that group? Hank McCoy, a.k.a. the Beast. Face it, this Flyboy Popsicle combination just isn't cut out to do somebody else's thing. Holy, Hannah! I see it too, Warren. It's some kind of hole in midair. And look what's pouring out of it. The goddess mortals, hand over Venus, or face the wrath of the Harpies. Where is she, man-child? Answer or die. Through. Bobby, you saved that student, but you can't fight them in your civilian identity. What if somebody sees you? What about your parents? No sweat, Mr. Worthington. By the time anybody figures out where that ice bolt came from, they won't see Bobby Drake. They'll see the Iceman! Whoops! Scratch one set of freeze-dried clothes. Hold him, pal, while I get into a costume. Move it, Wings, because it looks like Iceman and the Angel are back on the charts. What to sink your teeth into when you're hungry and you're not a werewolf? Every now and then, do you get this uncontrollable urge to bite into something that's really got some meat in it? Are you tired of sugar-sweet snacks that dissolve in your mouth, and crunchy snacks that you can hardly tell you ate, and all the other boring stuff you have to put up with every day? Well, take heart, and while you're at it, take Slim Jim along in your pocket. Slim Jim is a chewy all-meat snack that comes in 5 very unboring flavors. Mild, spicy, salami, bacon, and pizza. And you can find it at the grocery store, or at a lot of places where you've been getting those sissy snacks. You might want to carry a few extra ones too. Then if you meet a werewolf, you can give him something to sink his teeth into instead of you. I shunger for the Slim Jims. Yeah, me too. Me too. Enjoy an exciting, romantic look. Impressive any time. Quick change to suit your mood. Send for mustache, sideburns, and Van Dyke at once. Simply check the color you want, or send a staple of your hair and leave the matching to our expert. They're like stick-on... It's like a stick-on beard and mustache and sideburns. That can't look that good. Destroy the icy one! Sorry, lady, but as fast as you gals are, my ice sled is faster. Klug! And that's not all. I've got my frozen sleeve. Gruesome. It's not all I've got up my frozen sleeve. Gruesome. Sorry. Catch my snowdrift. Clunk. You boast too much, youth. Yes, mail them a sample of your DNA. Yeah. At him, sisters! Wham! Ugh! Our claws will slice him to ribbons! Like blazes they will, ugly. Not with the angel on the scene. Huh? Warren's not wearing his mask. Somebody's bound to recognize him. Chalk! You okay, Tiger? Yeah, but let's get out of here before your cover's blown. No way, friend. This is a decision I made after Mom died. No more hiding, for better or for worse. From here on in, the angel goes public. Besides, our fans over there are making retreat a decidedly difficult venture. Kill them! Kill them! A very weary woman gazes out over the UCLA campus this sunny autumn morning. In the past, she has been known as a spy, a jet setter, and a superheroine. Today, however, she essays a new role. Honesty. Time, Ivan. What do you think my chances are? Job applicant. She waits patiently for her interview, trying to push from her mind the knowledge that once again she has been forced by what and who she is to leave a man she loved. Daredevil in 124. Relax, sweetheart. The ad said they needed someone to teach Russian to the kiddies, and unless you've forgotten our mother tongue, you're a shoo-in for the job. I hope you're right, old friend. We need this job. We're just about broke. More than that, I need this job badly. What she is a highly capable individualist who has never really found her place in the sun. Who she is the Black Widow. Scary life-size monster ghost obeys your commands. Over 7 feet tall. Only $1. Real switchblade. Comb. Hey, Tosh. To help you forget Matt? That's not it, Ivan. I don't want to forget Matt Murdock. What we had was good while it lasted. We pushed our luck, that's all. Kept the game going too long. I wouldn't call it a game, kid. Because even this old fogey can see that you're still in love with Hornhead. Maybe... Huh? Where's this unearthly glow coming from? Ivan, there's some kind of portal appearing in this very room. And armored women are charging forth from it. We have come for Venus, woman. We know she is near. Conceal her only at the cost of your own mortal life. I don't like the way you're waving that pig sticker around, beautiful. So here's looking at you, thop. Tosh, strip for action. I'll hold them off until you... Ugh! Good work, warrior. General, the one who was with this man, Carrion, is poised for combat. Shall we deal with her? No. Warrior, if the mortal seeks battle, she shall find it. On the tip of my sword. I gather you're used to terrifying your opponents with that oversized knitting needle. Well, here's a flash for you. The widow doesn't care. Or scare. The widow doesn't scare. I don't think she cares either. Welcoming prospective Russian teachers isn't really a job for UCLA's newest humanities professor, but I want to meet the famous Natasha Romanoff. I seem to have acquired an almost human curiosity in my mortal guise as Dr. Victoria Starr. General! The goddess is here! This can't be. What are Hippolyta's Amazons doing here? Seize her! Zat! Zat! Apparently our new arrival is the reason for your visit here, ladies. And as such, she's just gained the protection of the Black Widow and my widow's bite. Super Bodybuilding Course, introducing the bodybuilding system that guarantees you'll put on inches of powerful muscles on your body. Kung Fu! We teach you what Kung Fu should be. You will learn quickly and easily from a registered black belt. Alright. You can't fight them. They're the most fiercely trained warriors in their world. I doubt my KGB taskmasters were less demanding in preparing my curriculum. Still, Zat, it might indeed behoove us to seek a strategic withdrawal. But where does that leave Ivan? You needn't concern yourself about him, Miss Romanoff. Though the Amazons are interested solely in my demise, I have nevertheless arranged his safety. How? I think, my friend, you had best explain just who you are and why these warrior women pursue you. I don't face death without good reason. Here we go. Here we go. Here's the reason why we started reading this thing. An apprehensive cyclist traverses the UCLA campus this sunny autumn morning. In the past, he was a pawn, no, a victim of Satan. Today, he is a free man. What's going on here? These kids look terrified. Yet his freedom has made his life increasingly complicated, and he wonders why this should be so. Turn around, pal. There's some kind of thing happening back there. He will find no relief for his puzzlement here, only danger. Whoa! Now that was a mite too close. I guess there must be a fracas in the wind. I'm starting to change, like I did when the trapster attacked in Ghost Rider number 13. Too bad for whoever threw that thing, because now on top of fighting Johnny, the world's greatest stunt rider Blaze, there's mid-transition again. He's got to deal with the Ghost Rider. Then again, stand fast, be ye mortal or demon. By command of my master, no one must pass Cerberus, guardian of the depths. For my master will brook no interference with his plan to crush the man-god. Your master appears to be a member of the same club as an old acquaintance of mine, fella. And that being the case, he can take his plan and stuff it. Whoosh! Hellfire. By trade name. The man-demon strikes with a flame that burns even one such as I. But Cerberus was created to be many guardians, and what one is ill-equipped to battle, another can destroy. Oh boy, now I get it. Cerberus, the guardian of Hades in Roman mythology, aka Bowser here. And judging from the way he's flashing his pearly whites at me, his bark isn't even in the same ballpark as his bite. I think I'd better vamoose. Leastwise, until I can come up with some way of corralling this critter. One thing's for certain. This is the last time I play errand boy, even for a fellow stunt person. See Ghost Rider number 14, now on hint hint sale, Marv. A somewhat unique lecturer has come to the UCLA campus this sunny autumn morning. His subject, mythology, what it means to you, and how the heavens must rock with laughter as the monumental jest. For the speaker is none other than Hercules, Prince of Power. Thou seem troubled, Richard Fenster. Is there any way Hercules might ease thy concern? Just wow the audience tonight, Hercules. I need to score a few points with the campus brass, or I could lose my thankless but so necessary job as lecture agent. Thou hast nothing to fear there. When I tell your young people of the glories of Olympus, they will verily swoon with wonderment. I hope so. The last offbeat speaker I hired didn't work out too well. A real Hitchcock type. Picture a scrawny, mop-haired New York writer who spends all his time writing about some bloodthirsty barbarian he called Mortal, what is it? Why doth fear cross your face like a bleak shadow? Perhaps because he sees us. Zeus, what manner of creatures art thou? Mutates, man-god, destined to rule this planet in eons to come? But now merely your conquerors. Conquerors? You presume too much, future men. Away, O ignominious fleas! None may hold the Prince of Power thus. There shall be payment extracted for this foul deed you have attempted, mutates. Wrench. Payment in full. Spack. You may have felled my men, Hercules. Whack. But you have yet to face the most savage mutate of all. Though Hercules be sworn friend of the thunder god, you know you this. For years I have ruled them, and in those years only the mighty Thor has ever defeated me. Thor 163. Sprack. Whatever Thor canst do, brack! Hercules canst accomplish more mightily. Marvel Comic-Con 1975. Were you there? Program book. Warning, I break for Marvel superheroes. Marvel Comics Convention 75. There's a button. There's a shirt. A poster. That's a cool poster. Mighty Marvel Comic-Con 1975. Saturday, March 22 to Monday, March 24. Hotel Commodore, Park Avenue and 42th Street. Marvel marches on. Hey Matt, sorry I fell asleep again last night during the thing. I love that movie. I'm glad people were able to experience the classic. It's a good movie, yeah. After that we watched we watched Creature from 1983, I think. It was okay. Then we watched Monkey Shines, which I'm sure you've seen. That was a really good one. And then after that we watched Psycho Cop, which had to have been one of the most boring things I've ever seen in my life. It was so freaking boring. It was almost funny how bad it was, but it was so boringly bad. Monkey Shines is great. Psycho Cop, not so much. Yeah. Maniac Cop's what you want to watch. Yeah, I don't have Maniac Cop. That's got Robert Zadar. Yeah, that one's good. Psycho Cop is so garbage. Alright. Wham! Thor had allies when he fought us, Hercules. You stand alone. And that is why you must fall before the unstoppable power of the Mutatis unleashed. Crack. Ye gods! The force of their charge doth drive both myself and mine foemen through the wall. But 'twill take more than this mere plunge to still Hercules' rage. Until these base ones have been defeated, the Prince of Power fights on. Smash! Shoot! That hellhound isn't giving me a chance to think. I've got to buy some time to come up with a... Hold it. Mr. Blaze, you just bought yourself an entire watch shop's worth of time. If I'm not loco, the gent beating on that passel of unpleasant sorts is Hercules. Cram! Titan's blood, what new enemy doth dare to lay hand upon Hercules in the midst of battle? Wait a minute, partner, I'm on your side. Just swing up and grab a seat on my skull cycle and I'll clue you in. But to give you a quick idea of what I've seen while being chased by Bowser back there, all hell's exploding around here and I can't stop it alone. Your voice reeks with evil, mortal. Yet Hercules doth sense the true valor that underlies thy tone and the urgency in thy request. I'm glad of that, big fella. 'Cause our hassles go way beyond an overgrown mutt and some assorted uglies. This whole campus is going crazy. Look! By cloven hooves of Pan, Amazon warriors and harpies were here on earth. And among those they pursue, she who Hercules doth know as the Black Widow, and another, woman who doth look strangely familiar. I'm glad you recognize the ladies, Herc. I can put names to the gents. The Angel and the Iceman. 2 of the X-Men. 25 live seahorses, $2.98. Dojimbo! 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 Whoa, 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 whoa. Can we get a shout out? That's the word I'm looking for. Can we get a shout out for the Dojimbo? Whoa, 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 whoa. You missed a very spooky game? What were you playing? Is anyone around to give a shout out? Are you there, Light Guts? I can do it myself. Alright. Jimbo. Choo Choo Charles? I've never even heard of it. It's very spooky, you say? Very spooky? You like it? Well, thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. We are currently reading The Champions, #1. I need to get a better copy. I just bought this one online and I didn't know that it was scribbled upon. Oh well. It's pretty good? Alright. Well, that's cool. I assume it's like a newer game, maybe? Probably. Choo Choo Charles. Is there any way to get rid of the scribble? I doubt it. I don't know. I don't know. Probably not. It's on Steam? Oh, okay. Cool. Well, welcome in, everybody. Yeah, we're almost through Champions, and then we'll, after this, we're gonna go on to, I think, Tomb of Dracula. Yeah. So, sorry you're eating some dinner? Oh, no problem. That's okay. I took care of it. Hey, Mr. Greenie, what's up? Do what you can for them, mortal. Hercules shall deal with yon devil hound. Much obliged, partner. Let's see how those winged terrors react of a sudden burst of hellfire. Aye! Flee, my sisters! This unnatural fire can destroy us! Spang! Whole Cerberus, thou it hath been ages since I didst vanquish you and drag you from the pits of Hades. Still doth Hercules remain thy master. Hey, the cavalry's arrived, and that's the only break we've gotten since Flyboy and I ran into you ladies. Frizz! And it looks like the odds have been adjusted just enough for yours truly to cut loose. General, we can't move! Use your swords to hack yourselves free, my warriors, and then turn their sharp steel on those who attempted to keep the goddess from us. Oh ho! The Amazons and the Harpies are recovering, and here comes a new group of playmates. Dr. Starr, make a run for it, and... No, Warren, I think it's time I lent a hand here. Miss Romanoff, can you delay them for a moment? Warren, fly me above our attackers. Ugh! You're the boss, Doc. You're not the only one harboring a secret identity, Warren. The woman you know as Victoria Starr is really the goddess men call Venus. And with the golden girdle cestus around my waist, I have the power of love over man or god. Though it appears my power affects these strange creatures differently than I had anticipated. That shining light, it causes my mind to reel. I cannot stand. Oh! Well done, my cousin. Thy power hath rendered all our enemies immobile. though given time I would have accomplished the same end. And art thou unharmed, fair Natasha? Unharmed, but incredibly confused, Hercules. What's going on here? Apparently, our foes were seeking to capture me, for some reason. Can't hardly blame them for that. But the ghost guy said Cerberus and the Mutates were after her. Herc. Do you think somebody else is involved in this? Somebody running the whole Magilla? I'll come back to that in a minute. Zat! Thou art indeed a base fool, winged one, of course. There be someone behind the weaving of this day's events. Someone with power enon to smite you all with but a single blast. Oh, yeah! That blast was powerful enough to drop all of us. I feel like all my strength has been drained out of me. You're not kidding, lady. I feel like I've been run over by a Mack truck. Look. There's another of those holes appearing, just like the ones the Amazons charged out of. And inside, it can't be. And why not, Venus? Art not thou a goddess of Olympus here on earth? Wouldst thou deny the same to thy fellow? Villains! Thou hast perpetrated thy final scheme upon the Prince of Power. Thou wilt be... Silence! Thou prattling man-god! For this day I bring thee a decree from my own father, our Lord Zeus. Boom, boom, boom. Heed the words of Pluto, Hercules, for the dread ruler of the underworld doth merely echo the words of Zeus. Before this day is done, thou shalt wed Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons, and serve loyally as her prince consort. And thou, my dear Venus, wilt likewise become the spouse of the war god Ares. And before thy shocked countenances fain leap from thy faces, know ye this. Shouldst either of you resist these matches, the universe dies. Next, whom the gods have joined together. Okay, that's it. What do you guys think? Ghost Rider has gone in a very weird direction all of a sudden. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah. Alright. Yeah. Okay, the Stanley Soapbox. I actually read this one last week, so I'm not going to bother reading that again. Yeah, because this Marvel Bullpen Bulletin, I think, is the same for each issue printed that week, and this was printed the same week as the previous book we read. So, yeah, we already read all this last week. So. All right, that was Champions #1. Any thoughts? Ghost Rider's going in a weird direction. All right. Yeah. Well. Yeah. How many issues did this last? I want to say Champions lasted like maybe 15 issues. Might have been. It could have been like 25 though. It's like either 15 or 25. So it either lasted about a year or about 2 years. So yeah. Anyway, that was the Champions #1. Okay. Next up, trying to decide what I want to do for the next one. So we've got Tomb of Dracula #5. We've got Hammer's Hall of Horror. And I really wanted to read some of this today. The Life and Death of Judge Death. It's like the Killing Joke right there. Drawn by Brian Bolland, who drew the Killing Joke. There, I can go grab it, do a comparison. Where's the Laughing Bat? That's a much newer thing. Like, I think that came out only in the last few years. But yeah, see it. Like that. Same artist, Brian Bolland, so he just did the same thing. Kind of funny. Homage of Joker. I'm actually really not a fan of the Killing Joke. I'll probably sell this and get rid of it, because, yeah, I don't know. It's not really the kind of Batman I like very much. Odd, considering it's Alan Moore and Brian Bolland, two guys from 2000 AD, and I love 2000 AD. I'm not really a fan of 2000 AD injected into Batman. I don't know. Any you guys want any input on which one we should go with next here? Judge Death. Read some Hammer's Halls of Horror magazine. Or I think it has The Mummy. It says The Mummy, full film told in comics. So we got like Hammer Mummy. We got Tomb of Dracula #5. You vote for The Mummy. Okay, we have one vote for The Mummy. Maybe I should put up a poll. That might be a good idea. How do I run a poll on here? Manage poll. Here we go. New poll. Question. Alrighty, we will set it for... I'll go for 3 minutes here. Start poll. Okay. Alright, make your votes, everybody. Make your votes. Whichever one wins the vote is the one I'll read next. Tomb of Dracula #5, Hammer's Hall of Horror, or Judge Death. You've got 3 minutes. Make thine votes. And try not to make it a tie. Hopefully. Votes are up, everybody. Make your vote. Vote, vote, vote. Vote, vote, vote. Votes, votes, votes. Make your votes. We've got 3 votes. 3 votes so far. We're halfway through. You've got about 1.5 minutes to make your votes. Anyone who wants to vote, do it now. Alright, time is almost up. Any last second voters, do it quick. Tis almost over. Time is almost up. And it is done. Alright, Tomb of Dracula had 2 votes. Judge Death and the Mummy each had 1 vote. Alright then. Well, in that case, we will do Tomb of Dracula. And, I guess maybe save these 2 for next week, possibly. Alright. Thank you to those who voted. I appreciate it. Okay, well, let's do Tomb of Dracula then. Tomb of Dracula, number 5. Here we go. Alrighty. Marvel Comics Group. The Tomb of Dracula. Number 5. Back's fine before you arouse the wrath of Dracula. No, we've got you now, monster. This time you're doomed. Burn Castle Dracula! Burn it to the ground! To slay a vampire. Alrighty. The End of the Skinny Body. Another Joe Weider breakthrough. Before, 149 pounds. 2 weeks later, 165 pounds. Gain up to 16 pounds in 14 days. Adds 2 1/4 inch to each arm and 2 1/4 inch to his chest. Walter Leno of Burlington, VT. Burlington, VT? What's VT? Vermont? Reported these fantastic gains in 14 days. Gained 16 pounds, added 2 1/4 inch to each arm, 2 1/4 inch to his chest, 1 1/2 inch to each leg. See what a fresher, more exciting, fun-going body he now has thanks to Crash Weight Formula. Number 7. He says, all I did was follow the plan and drink a few small glasses of delicious Crash Weight Formula number 7. And the improvement I made in just 14 days was beyond my wildest dreams. Shouldn't this happen to you? It's the end of the skinny body. Nobody likes a bag of bones. Fake photographic imagery. Alright, let's get to the story here. Tomb of Dracula, Death to a Vampire Slayer. There be demons who make mirrors, which are gateways into evil places. Mali, Loki, Ian, through time itself, into which one may enter on recitation of an incantation. Albert Magus, his grimoire. Trailing the vile Count Dracula from Transylvania to London, seeking to undo the harm done by Clifton Graves, who freed him from the stake that held him prisoner, Rachel Von Helsing and Frank Drake burst into the late Ilsa Strangeway's home, just as... Frank! Count Dracula is dragging my mute servant Taj into the demon mirror! Stop him! Too late, Rachel. You're disappearing even now. No. Stan Lee presents Gardner F. Fox, writer, and Eugene Cullen, artist. Tom Palmer as inker. Artie Simek as letterer. Wow, Artie Simek. Wow. This was like only 3 years before he died, too. Roy Thomas, editor. Tomb of Dracula is published by Magazine Management Company. Copyright 1972. November 1972 issue. 1972. Man. 72. This book is over 50 years old. It's 50 years old, you guys. It's an old book, man. It's half a century. Alright, let's go. Maybe we can go after them, Rachel. But never in time. They've gone into another world. Taj will be killed. No living man may escape the dread creatures that inhabit those infernal regions. Aye, into an ebon nothingness plunge Count Dracula and the mute Taj. They come to rest in a dreary, barren land where demoniac beings crouch behind shrub and rock, gibbering in their hate for humankind. We've trapped forever in this abomination of desolation, unless... Avaunt, you creatures of this hellish world! You'll not take Count Dracula! I am supreme! You'll never feast on my bones, nor bend them to your eternal torments. By Beelzebub and Sathanas, whom you serve, be off! Aye, take the mute! Do with him what you will, until he finds tongue to scream for mercy. But me, you touch not. Ilsa Strangeway said that demons made the black mirror through which we fell. If so, there may be more such mirrors in these hell-haunted lands. If they exist, I'll search them out and flee this place. And yet, my search will take time. Without that food for which my nature hungers, I may weaken, grow helpless. Taj is the only thing in these barren wastes on which I can feast. I must save his life to save my own. Be off, you foul fiends of these nether worlds. He belongs to me. Don't be half a man. Let me show you how I can make you a real He-Man from head to toe in just 15 minutes a day. Alright. I'll save you, Taj. For now, for you are mine. Now. Away from him! Let go your claws, your fangs. Follow me. I'll cleave a path between these crawling monstrosities for both of us. A silvery pathway lies ahead on which no demon seems to walk. Perhaps it holds some menace for their necromantic flesh. It seems to be our only hope, for even I cannot go on fighting forever. On Earthside, in the Black Mirror, I'll never see Taj again. He's gone to a frightful doom. There's always hope. An expert occultist, Rachel, as was your grandfather, Abraham von Helsing, who drove that stake into Dracula's heart. Perhaps there's some way you and I may enter into that mirror. The lost incantation. Of course. Dracula must have known it to turn the mirror's black glass into mist, so he and Taj could go through it. If he did it, so can we. Somewhere in her library, Ilsa Strangeway must have the book which contains that incantation. Otherwise, Dracula would never have known it. We must find it, Frank, and soon. Whitby, you can help us. You were Ilsa Strangeway's butler for many years before Dracula attacked you, and gave her the vampiric death bite. I'll help you if I can, Miss Rachel. I mind the mirror, yes, and the day the late mistress bought it. Now I come to think of it, I recall another day when she came home from the old bookshops, very excited. She had a book clutched under an arm. A book on witchcraft. A book she mumbled would help her solve the riddle of the Black Mirror. I mind it well. The volume must be somewhere in the library. If you'll give me a hand, I'll help you find it. It was an old book, with faded, yellow pages. A grimoire, the mistress called it, meaning a book of ancient magic lore. She put it in her safe, and yet, if the safe is locked, you cannot get the book. For only the mistress knew the combination, and when she died, its secret perished with her. The silvery pathway stretches past strange and unreal ruins of the demon world, past dead pools where bones lie twisted in eternal torment, where living fungi grope blindly for living flesh. Nowhere is there sight or even hint of a Black Mirror. I'm not even sure another exists. Eerie lich lights glow to show the way toward an empty fen, where once stood altars to amorphous gods. These corpses burn, yet they do not disintegrate. They furnish the light by which to see in this unholy desolation. And, can it be? It is! Rejoice, mute Taj. We found a mirror. I cannot tell where it will take us, but we must chance the unknown. We must. Into it, Taj. Go you before me, so that I'll know. I will have sustenance, no matter into what period of time or space the black glass takes us, while I come after you. A gibbous moon peeps down upon a graveyard somewhere on earth, somewhere in time, and moments later, a voice cries out in triumph, I've done it! I am in Transylvania, in the days of my youth. Now indeed shall I bring death to a vampire slayer. Back, back, back into time itself, travel the mirror voyagers until... I know this marble coffin, this sarcophagus. It's in that little graveyard in Transylvania where my own ancestors lie buried. But what year is it? I must find out. But first I shall attend to you, my mute companion. I'll no longer need the blood which you alone could give me in those demon lands. But to make sure you'll be on hand if I need you, I'll bury you alive in this coffin. For until I learn what year this is, I must conserve my supplies. You are strong, Taj, but only my muscles can raise this lid unaided. So here you'll stay until my vampire hunger has a need for you. Or suffocating, you die. The uncanny silence of the burial ground is broken only by the pound of horses' hooves and the creak of leather braces as... A coach and four! Then that means I may have come back in time into Transylvania at an era when motor cars are unknown. And if such be the case, mayhap my old enemy Abraham von Helsing is still alive. Aye, it was Abraham von Helsing who put that stake into my vampiric heart, slaying me, so that I lay dead and rotting until that fool Clifton Graves pulled it out and restored me to life. Graves I made into my slave, so that he does everything I order. But von Helsing, how sweet would it be to take my revenge on him when he doesn't suspect I am alive. I must seek him out. High above the autumn moon, below the swirl of a cloak, the subdued growl of the hungry vampire, and then the man-shape shrinks, becomes smaller, until at last only the leathery flap of beating bat wings break the silence of the Transylvanian night. But first, I must feed upon the blood of living man or woman, which gives life to me, the living vampire. Outward and upward flies the enormous bat, seeking its prey. I thought I heard, but it cannot be. Baron von Helsing slew the vampire. My father saw the deed done. Ah, no! Dear Lord, from vampires and werewolves and all other creatures of the night, protect me! It's gone. It was nothing more than an ordinary bat, no vampire. But then, at a bend in the road, ah! That scream is muffled as wicked fangs gleam in the moonlight. And when the vampire has feasted, now to attend to Abraham von Helsing. Below is his manor house, where he probably lies sleeping. And yet, why are there lights in the kitchen and the servant quarters? The master will be back from Bucharest within a sennight. He must have everything neat and polished as he likes. What's this? He's not in residence. Oh well, I can wait a week, but then... He who hunted me down and slew me, by putting a stake through my heart, shall be made into such a thing as I. Before him looms the stone walls and turrets of Castle Dracula, unburned in this day and age. Soon it will be dawn. I must seek out my coffin and lie in it before those first rays of the sun touch me, or else my body will turn to ashes. As he makes his way toward the subterranean crypts below the castle, Dracula pauses. The bottle of blood. Ah, I'd forgotten about that. And what is imprisoned in that dusty glass? Dear Lenore, do you rest peacefully inside that stoppered vial? It was I, long ago, who encased you there against my time of need, even as I keep Taj now. Unlike him, you must be placed in blood to keep you in good health. Sometime I may need you, but right now I must seek my coffin. It will be daybreak within minutes. How good it will be to lie here and dream, after all I've been through, and plan the death of that hated enemy of mine, von Helsing. The sun rises. A new day dawns, a day of horror that heralds the coming of nightmarish days and nights for the simple folk of this Transylvanian hill country. Little Aura, dead of the vampire bite. Heaven help us if Count Dracula still stalks this haunted land. Fearful townspeople gather at the marketplace. Aura murdered! Who knows how many others of our village may die by those same fangs? I say we must march against his castle and slay him. But as sometimes happens when passions run high, the long day passes while arguments rage back and forth. Dare we do this deed on our own? Better to wait for Baron von Helsing to return, I say. Aye, he'll know what to do. Let him give the word. Let his be the responsibility. Until it is almost dusk when the people finally gather their courage, and we won't wait then. No, for the Baron won't be home for another week. We'll go to kill Dracula now. Until moonlight touches the fanged face of the vampire count. It is night once again, night which gives me life. I shall go forth to sate my hunger of the world of living men. Ha, 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 ha! My food has come to me. No need for me to hunt at all. Just take that which I crave and let the others go for another time. Fools! Back to your burrows. Think you to match your strength against my own? You exist only to serve me, your master. He ravens like a mad thing among these terrified people. You have no life but that which I permit you. Always remember that, animals. And as for Abraham von Helsing, you'll get no help from him. For him, I mean to slay. In mighty hands, screaming, farmers and terrified sheep herders are held helpless until the vampire teeth have bitten deep. And when he has done, these are my hills now, and every living thing within them mine. The people are mine to slay, mine to let live as it pleases me. While in Ilsa Strangway's library, is the safe locked? If it is, we can never go through the Black Mirror, and Count Dracula is safe in whatever era he has fled to. It won't open. Oh, Frank, what shall we do? Try again, Rachel. Pull harder. Here, let me help. Yes, grab and hold, and... It's opening! Oh, thank heavens. The safe is old, Rachel. The hinges must be rusty. When Dracula closed it after putting the grimoire inside, he didn't bother turning the dial to lock it again. Why should he? Yes, I see it now. The incantation fixes the time and place into which the Black Mirror opens. Why, this means we can pick and choose when and where we want to go. It won't do us any good to go into the demon world. We'd be destroyed. No, we must think this out and decide where Count Dracula would go, assuming he escaped those demoniac beings. But where would that be? Wait, I think I know. He'd go back to Transylvania, where he's a count, and to the time before his castle was burned, before my grandfather ran that stake into his heart. That's the answer. It must be. Ad apertus speculum niger. Carry us beyond that gate which time has closed in every hate, into that day or into that night whence Count Dracula has gone from sight. Nos potare! The mirror's melting. Jump, Rachel! Hand in hand they leap into that black mystery which is the demon glass. We may never return from wherever it is we're going. It's a risk we have to take if we hope to destroy Count Dracula, my ancestor. Timelessness batters them with mad fury. The sonorous rhythms of a nowhere world close about their bodies, lifting their corporeal beings and flinging them like leaves before a raging storm. Then the world steadies around their reeling senses. Frank, we're in a tomb, but where and when? Listen. There's a faint thumping sound coming from that marble sarcophagus. Something is trapped inside it. But what? Give me a hand with this, Rachel. Whatever's inside this thing is also helping move it. Why, it's Taj. He's using the deaf and dumb hand sign language to tell me that Count Dracula is here, and that he put him in the coffin. Taj is very weak. He must have been inside the coffin for several days. We'll have to get him to an inn for food and drink. At the village inn an hour later, Dracula runs free and none can stop him. Even Baron von Helsing is unaware of what's happening. He's been in Budapest. My grandfather. Count Dracula will try to kill him, Frank. After all, it was grandfather who ran that stake into his heart. We'll hurry to his manor house. Warn him. At Castle Dracula. It's time to set you free, Lenore. My enemies have come through the Black Mirror after me. I saw them through my field glasses carrying Taj to the village. You shall stop them while I slay Abraham von Helsing. His week's trip has ended. He must be at his manor house by now. Smash! There he shall die, and worse. Then, from out of the shattered bottle, a sensuous form writhes and grows until there stands before Dracula, Lenore. I care not what I do, so long as I can satisfy my hunger, Count Dracula. Go after them. They belong to you. Though I imprisoned you centuries ago, you are as much vampire as I. The wind moans beneath the gravestones. The moon is a silver orb overhead. As the shortcut through the graveyard will bring us to my grandfather's manor house very soon. The sooner the better if Dracula's out to kill him. With a hiss of vampire hunger, Lenore springs. This is my prey, this soft female flesh. Away, you others! Taj, stop her! Fools! My strength is as great as that of Dracula himself. Begone! Your senses swim. You are almost unconscious. Fall and wait for the touch of my fangs, rash one. $17 different triangles, 25 cents. And now I feast. I, who have not sated my hunger for living blood in many years, shall drink my fill. Break this marble cross, Taj. It's our only hope to save Rachel. The marble is cracked. It should give way. It must. Muscles bulge as marble shatters, but between them they raise that cross on high so that the moonlight shadows it. Father up in heaven, help us! Ah! Rachel, are you all right? Yes, thanks to you and Taj. I felt her teeth, but before she could break my skin, he foiled her with the cross's shadow. Quickly, to my grandfather's manor. Abraham von Helsing is unsuspecting until... My enemy, at last! Count Dracula! But I destroyed you, I've longed for this moment. Lived for it, von Helsing. Now, nothing can stop me from feasting on your very life. We can stop you, Dracula. Let him go. You! Then Lenore failed in her mission. But my strength is too great, even for the three of you. No, evil one, not any longer. For this bow, which we borrowed from a village hunter, is notched an arrow of white thornwood. White thornwood, when driven into a vampire's heart, destroys it utterly. Now die, Count Dracula! Missed! After him, Frank! Taj! We mustn't let him get away! Keep him in view! At the mausoleum of the Black Mirror. Wait for me, Count Dracula! Don't leave me to die! Then hurry, Lenore! We haven't much time. They're right on my heels. I've spoken the incantation. Open the gateway of the demon glass. Enter it with me, Lenore. I'm coming with you no matter where, no matter when. They got away. But you remember the incantation, which will open the Black Mirror for us, Rachel. Speak it, so we may follow. We're so close behind them, they won't escape us this time. Dracula, or we must die. Next, Mystery of the Moorlands Monster. Be here, Hobgoblin. Alright, well there you go. What do you guys think of that issue? What do you guys think? Tomes from the Tower. Dear Stan, Archie, and Jean, today I picked up Tomb of Dracula #3. It was much better than the previous two issues. Art-wise and story-wise, whatever you do, don't let Tom Palmer slip away from his inking chores on Dracula, because he and Jean are made for the strip. The only real gripe I had about the strip is the cover of issue 3. Otherwise, it's magnificent, but I really hate word balloons, especially on the covers of such magazines as Dracula, Werewolf by Night, or any of your magazines, in fact. Oh, you really hate word balloons on the covers. Got it, okay. Please Stan, get rid of them, at least on Werewolf and Dracula. Another thing about the cover of issue number 3 was that Dracula looked so old. Come on, Gene or Tom, whoever drew the cover, Dracula may be pretty old, but let's not push it too far. Von Helsing and her friendly bodyguard Taj are superb characters and should be kept around with Frank to fight Dracula. One thing, though, please make her more ladylike. She acted just like a man in many ways, and I feel like if things go right, she and Frank could get to know each other more, and more as the series progresses. Get my hint? After all, Frank needs someone more than just a mere friend. And if he would fight Dracula with more fury than ever before, if he loved Rachel and knew the evil Count would destroy her. As for Clifton Graves, I feel it's just a matter of time till he goes bye-bye. Thanks for listening, and now I can just hope my letter will be printed. Clint Higginbotham. What a name. Higginbotham. 8595 Randall Drive, Denison, Texas. And here it is, Clint, in blazing black and white. As we've tried to explain before, the word balloons on our covers, for some inexplicable reason, really seem to have a positive effect on the sales of the book. In other words, we can't get rid of them without chancing the loss of some customers. And if we lose too many customers and the magazine goes, pfft, well, wouldn't you rather have the word balloons? Rachel Von Helsing, we feel somehow that the great-granddaughter of a vampire slayer, much less a woman who's taken up the profession herself, would tend to be the self-reliant type Archie portrayed in that story, which is not to say that a deeper relationship twixt her and Drax's descendant is out of the picture. Let's just wait and see how our little legend develops, okay? Dear Stan and friends, fiends, about Miss Margaret Watson's letter in Tomb of Dracula 3. First of all, vampires are not destroyed by a stake driven through the heart. The stake only places them in a sort of suspended animation. Stuffing the vampire's mouth with garlic and chopping its head off are supposed to be done after driving the stake through his heart. This keeps him from coming back to life if the stake is removed. I agree that silver does not harm vampires, but it is deadly against witches, demons, and werewolves. Also, the sun's rays do not destroy vampires. Exposed to the sun, the vampire is thrown into the pits of hell, where he can be controlled by other demons or witches. Now that that's over, I'd like to say a few things about the mag itself. I've been reading the Avengers for a long while. They were the only superheroes I ever liked. My true likes were horror and science fiction. When I read about a new title called Tomb of Dracula, I just had to get it. So far, I've seen 3 issues. I disagree with David Michelini. Gene Colan's art is fantastic. I have a few suggestions. Have Rachel and Frank fall in love with each other. I'd like to see Frank and Dracula locked in deadly combat again, like they were in issue 2. Well, that's all. Until the Marvel Comics Group becomes the least known comics company in the U.S., make mine Marvel. Bobby Summercomp, 1803 Bayou Grand Boulevard, New England. St. Petersburg, Florida? Or N-E? So he's in Florida. What's N-E? I don't know what N-E. Never mind. Not New England. Oh. But Bobby, we are the least known comics company in Upper Slobovia. Or did you have another U.S. in mind? Dear Stan and Company, I have been a long-time follower of Marvel, but never have any of your heroes or heroines and their monthly exploits prompted me to write you. But with Dracula, you have struck a string in my soul. I believe your new effort has merit and is capable of very interesting expansion. To have the immortal Count Dracula loose and wandering the entire European countryside is by far the most refreshing addition to the long list of vampiric endeavors. if you can build around the legend and add some of your own imaginative ingredients, Tomb of Dracula should be with us for a long time. Issue number 3 was by far the most excellent with regard to plot and art. Keep Archie Goodwin. I'm very familiar with his excursions in Creepy and Vampirella. Gene Colan is a must for the overall Dracula atmosphere. I will remember the enchantments he concocted for Doctor Strange. From a very knowledgeable gal concerning vampires, most unholy success with Dracula. I will follow it until a bat of midnight flies nevermore. Adriana Gomez. 4318 San Luis, Tampa, Florida, I think. For this issue and the next, the scripting chores and the count have been handed over to yet another author, long noted for his occult opuses, none other than Gardner Fox. Amiable Archie, meanwhile, may be found on the pages of Luke Cage, Hero for Hire, one of Marvel's most applauded new series of 72. Despite the change of scripters, though, Adriana, your ideas on Dracula seem to run parallel to ours, as we did with Thor. We're out to create a whole new mythology around the Prince of Darkness, so keep haunting your local newsstand. We've got a hunch you'll be able to sink your teeth into what's coming. Alright, well, there you go. Alright, what do you guys think? Is my internet still working? Pretty good. Alright, well, I'm glad you liked it. Oh, what are we at? Almost 3 hours. Okay. Alright. Okay, I'm gonna take a break for a minute, and then when I get back, we will finish the Dunwich horror from Cthulhu stuff. I'll be back shortly here. Alrighty, I'm back. Let's see. Picks my nose, scratches my chin, scratches my butt. Blarg. Game over, yeah. In Daytona, USA. What? It's me, Dojimbo. This is my alt account. Well, hello, Dojimbo. Seek help. Alright, well, I'm going to finish the Dunwich Horror that we started last week. And that'll probably be it for this stream. So let's go and finish that up. Alrighty. I want to zoom in? Maybe. Alright, so I don't remember what happened last time. I honestly do not remember. Dr. Armitage? Dr. Morgan? I don't know. There's some spooky stuff happening. All right, we'll just continue here. Yet all this was only the prologue of the actual Dunwich Horror. Formalities were gone through by bewildered officials. Abnormal details were duly kept from press and public, and men were sent to Dunwich and Aylesbury to look up property and notify any who might be heirs of the late Wilbur Whatley. They found the countryside in great agitation, but because of the growing rumblings beneath the domed hills, and because of the unwanted stench and surging, lapping sounds which came increasingly from the great empty shell formed by Whatley's boarded-up farmhouse, Earl Sawyer, who tended the horse and cattle during Wilbur's absence, had developed a woefully acute case of nerves. The officials devised excuses not to enter the noisome, boarded place, and we were glad to confine their survey of the deceased living quarters, the newly mended sheds, to a single visit. They filed a ponderous report at the courthouse in Aylesbury, and litigations concerning heirship are said to be still in progress amongst the innumerable Whatleys, decayed and undecayed, of the upper Miskatonic Valley. An almost interminable manuscript in strange characters, written in a huge ledger and adjudged a sort of diary, because of the spacing and the variations in ink and penmanship, presented a baffling puzzle to those who found it on the old bureau, which served as its owner's desk. After a week of debate, it was sent to Miskatonic University, together with the deceased collection of strange books for study and possible translation. But even the best linguists soon saw that it was not likely to be unriddled with ease. No trace of the ancient gold with which Wilbur and the old Whatleys always paid their debts has yet been discovered. It was in the dark of September 9th that the horror broke loose. The hill noises had been very pronounced during the evening, and dogs barked frantically all night. Early risers on the 10th noticed a peculiar stench in the air. About 7 o'clock, Luther Brown, the hired boy at George Corey's between Cold Spring Glen and the village, rushed frenziedly back from his morning trip to 10-acre Meadow with the cows. He was almost convulsed with fright as he stumbled into the kitchen, and in the yard outside the no less frightened herd were pawing and lowing pitifully, having followed the boy back in the panic they shared with him. Between gasps, Luther tried to stammer out his tale to Mrs. Corey. "Up thar in the rud beyont the glen, Miss Corey. They suthin's been thar. It smells like thunder, and all the bushes and little trees is pushed back from the rud like they'd a house been moved along of it. And that ain't the wuss neither. They's prints in the rud, Miss Corey. Great round prints, as big as barrel heads, all sunk down deep like a elephant had been along. Only they's a sight more nor 4 feet could make. I looked at one or two afore I run, and I seen everyone was covered with lines spreading out from one place, like as if big palm leaf fans, twigged 3 times as big as any they is, had been pounded down into the rud, and the smell was awful, like what is around Wizard Watley's old house. Here he faltered, and seemed to shiver afresh, with the fright that had sent him flying home. Mrs. Corey, unable to extract more information, began telephoning the neighbors, thus starting on its round the overture of panic that heralded the major terrors. When she got Sally Sawyer, housekeeper of Seth Bishop's, the nearest place to Watley's, it became her turn to listen instead of transmit, for Sally's boy, Chauncey, who slept poorly, had been up on the hill toward Watley's, and had dashed back in terror after one look at the place, and at the pasturage where Mr. Bishop's cows had been left out all night. Yet, yes, Miss Corey, came Sally's tremulous voice. Sorry. Voice over the party wire. Chauncey, he just come back a-postin' and couldn't have talk for being scared. He says old Watley's house is all blowed up with the timbers scattered round like they've been dynamite inside. Only the bottom floor ain't through, but it's all covered with kind of tar-like stuff that smells awful and drips down off in the edges onto the ground while the sides timbers blown away. And they's awful kinder marks in the yard too. Great round marks, bigger round than a hogshead, and all sticky with stuff like is on the blowed up house. Chauncey says they leads off into the medders, or a great swath wider'n barn is matted down, and all the stun walls tumbled every which way wherever it goes. And he says he, Miss Corey, as how he sought to look for Seth's cows, frightened as he was, and found 'em in the upper pasture now the devil's hop yard in awful shape. Half on 'em's clean gone, and nigh half of them that's left is sucked most dry of blood. Sores on him. He's been on Watley's cattle ever since 11's black brat was born. Seth's been gone out now to look at him, though I vow he won't care ter get very nigh Wizard Watley's. Chauncey didn't look careful ter see whar the big matted down swath led arter it left the pasturage, but he says he thinks it pinted toward the glen rud to the village. I tell you, Miss Corey, they's something abroad as hadn't orter be abroad, and I for one think that Black Wilbur Watley has come to a bad end he desarved. It's at the bottom of the breeding of it. He wasn't all human himself, I'll say everyone, and I think he old Watley they must raise something that there nailed up house ain't even so human as he was. These all's been unseen things around Dunwich, living things us ain't human ain't good for human folk. The ground was a-talking last night, and toward morning Chauncey heard the whippoorwill so loud in Carl Springs Glen he couldn't sleep none. Then he thought he heard another faint-like sound over towards Wizard Watley, akin to whooping or tearing wood, or like some bigger box or crate was being opened fur off. Well, with this and that, he didn't get to sleep at all till sunup. No sooner was he this morning, but he's got to go over to Watley's and see what the matter. You see enough, I tell you, Miss Corey. This done me no good, and I think as old men folk ought to get up to a party do something. I know something's off about it, and I feel my time is nigh. Only God knows just what it is. Did your Luther take account of where them big tracks led to? No? Well, Miss Corey, if they was on the Glen Rud on this side of the Glen, ain't got your house yet, I calculate they must go to the Glen itself. They do that. I always say Cold Spring Glen ain't no healthy nor decent place. The whippoorwills and fireflies there never did act like they was creators of God. And they's them says you can hear some strange things a rushing and talking in the air down there if you stay in the right place between the Rock Falls and Bear's Den. God, this is so hard to read. Sounds like Dale from King of the Hill. It sure does. By noon, fully 3/4 of the men and boys of Dunwich were trooping over the roads and meadows between the new-made Whatley ruins and Cold Spring Glen, examining in the horror the vast, monstrous prints, the maimed bishop cattle, the strange, noisome wreck of the farmhouse, and the bruised, matted vegetation of the fields and roadsides. Whatever had burst loose upon the world had assuredly gone down into the great sinister ravine, for all the trees on the banks were bent and broken, and a great avenue had been gouged in the precipice hanging underbrush. It was as though a house, launched by an avalanche, had slid down through the tangled growths of the almost vertical slope. From below no sound came, but only a distant, undefinable fetor, and it is not to be wondered at that the men preferred to stay on the edge and argue, rather than descend and beard the unknown cyclopean horror in its lair. 3 dogs that were with the party had barked furiously at first, but seemed cowed and reluctant when near the glen. Someone telephoned the news to the Aylesbury Transcript, but the editor, accustomed to wild tales from Dunwich, did no more than concoct a humorous paragraph about it, an item soon afterward reproduced by the Associated Press. That night everyone went home, and every house and barn was barricaded as stoutly as possible. Needless to say, no cattle were allowed to remain in open pasturage. About 2 a.m, a frightful stench and the savage barking of the dogs awakened the household at Elmer Fry's, on the eastern edge of Cold Spring Glen, and all agreed that they could hear a sort of muffled swishing or lapping sound from somewhere outside. Mrs. Fry proposed telephoning the neighbors, and Elmer was about to agree when the noise of splintering wood burst in upon their deliberations. It came apparently from the barn, and was quickly followed by a hideous screaming and stamping amongst the cattle. The dogs slavered and crouched close to the feet of the fear-numbed family. Fry lit a lantern through force of habit, but knew it would be death to go out in that black farmyard. The children and the women folk whimpered, kept from screaming by some obscure vestigial instinct of defense which told them their lives depended on silence. At last the noise of the cattle subsided to a pitiful moaning, and a great snapping, crashing, and crackling ensued. The Frys, huddled together in the sitting room, did not dare to move until the last echoes died away far down in Cold Spring Glen. Then, amidst the dismal moans from the stable, and the demoniac piping of late whippoorwills in the glen, Selina Fry tottered to the telephone and spread what news she could of the second phase of the horror. The next day all the countryside was in a panic, and cowed, uncommunicative groups came and went where the fiendish thing had occurred. 2 titan swaths of destruction stretched from the glen to the Fry farmyard. Monstrous prints covered the bare patches of ground, and one side of the old red barn had completely caved in. Of the cattle, only a quarter could be found and identified. Some of these were in curious fragments, and all that survived had to be shot. Earl Sawyer suggested that help be asked from Aylesbury or Arkham, but others maintained it would be of no use. Old Zebulon Whatley, what a name, of a branch that hovered about halfway between soundness and decadence, made darkly wild suggestions about rites that ought to be practiced on the hilltops. He came of a line where tradition ran strong, and his memories of chantings in the great stone circles were not altogether connected with Wilbur and his grandfather. Darkness fell upon a stricken countryside too passive to organize for real defense. In a few cases, closely related families would band together and watch in the gloom under one roof, but in general, there was only a repetition of the barricading of the night before, and a futile and ineffective gesture of loading muskets and setting pitchforks handily about. Nothing, however, occurred except some hill noises, and when the day came there were many who hoped that the new horror had gone as swiftly as it had come. There were even bold souls who proposed an offensive expedition down in the glen, though they did not venture to set an actual example to the still reluctant majority. When night came again, the barricading was repeated, though there was less huddling together of families. In the morning, both Fry and the Seth Bishop households reported excitement among the dogs and vague sounds and stenches from afar, while early explorers noted with horror a fresh set of the monstrous tracks in the road skirting Sentinel Hill. As before, the sides of the road shewed a bruising indicative of the blasphemously stupendous bulk of the horror, whilst the conformation of the tracks seemed to argue a passage in two directions, as if the moving mountain had come from Cold Spring Glen and returned to it along the same path. At the base of the hill, a 30-foot swath of crushed shrubbery saplings led steeply upward, and the seekers gasped when they saw that even the most perpendicular places did not deflect the inexorable trail. Whatever the horror was, it could scale a sheer stony cliff of almost complete verticality. As the investigators climbed around to the hill's summit by safer routes, they saw that the trail ended, or rather reversed, there. It was here that the Watleys used to build their hellish fires and chant their hellish rituals by the table-like stone on May Eve and Hallow Mass. Now that very stone formed the center of a vast space thrashed around by the mountainous horror, whilst upon its slightly concave surface was a thick and fetid deposit of the same tarry stickiness observed on the floor of the ruined Watley farmhouse when the horror escaped. Men looked at one another and muttered. Then they looked down the hill. Apparently the horror had descended by a route much the same as that of its ascent. To speculate was futile. Reason, logic, and normal ideas of motivation stood confounded. Only old Zebulon, who was not with the group, could have done justice to the situation, or suggested a plausible explanation. Thursday night began much like the others, but it ended less happily. The whippoorwills in the glen had screamed with such unusual persistence that many could not sleep, and about 3 a.m., all the party telephones rang tremulously. Those who took down their receivers heard a fright-mad voice shriek out, "Help! Oh my God!" And some thought a crashing sound followed the breaking off of the exclamation. There was nothing more. No one dared to do anything, and no one knew till morning whence the call came. Then those who had heard it called everyone on the line and found that only the Frys did not reply. The truth appeared an hour later, when a hastily assembled group of armed men trudged out to the Fry place at the head of the glen. It was horrible, yet hardly a surprise. There were more swaths and monstrous prints, but there was no longer any house. It had caved in like an eggshell. And amongst the ruins, nothing living or dead could be discovered, only a stench and a tarry stickiness. The Elmer Frys had been erased from Dunwich. In the meantime, a quieter yet even more spiritually poignant phase of the horror had been blackly unwinding itself behind the closed door of a shelf-lined room in Arkham. The curious manuscript, record, or diary of Wilbur Whatley, delivered to Miskatonic University for translation, had caused much worry and bafflement among the experts in languages, both ancient and modern. Its very alphabet, notwithstanding a general resemblance to the heavy-shaded Arabic used in Mesopotamia, being absolutely unknown to any available authority, the final conclusion of the linguists was that the text represented an artificial alphabet, giving the effect of a cipher. Though none of the usual methods of cryptographic solution seemed to furnish any clue. Even when applied on the basis of every tongue the writers might conceivably have used, the ancient books taken from Whatley's quarters, while absorbingly interesting and in several cases promising to open up new and terrible lines of research among philosophers and men of science, were of no assistance whatever in this matter. One of them, a heavy tome with an iron clasp, was in another unknown alphabet, this one of a very different cast and resembling Sanskrit more than anything else. The old ledger was at length given wholly into the charge of Dr. Armitage, but both because of his peculiar interest in the Whatley matter and because of his wide linguistic learning and skill, than the mystical formulae of antiquity and the Middle Ages. Armitage had an idea that the alphabet might be something esoterically used by certain forbidden cults, which have come down from old times and which have inherited many forms and traditions from the wizards of the Saracenic world. That question, however, he did not deem vital, since it would be unnecessary to know the origin of the symbols if, as he suspected, they were used as a cipher in a modern language. It was his belief that, considering the great amount of text involved, the writer would scarcely have wished the trouble of using another speech than his own, save perhaps in certain special formulae and incantations. Accordingly, he attacked the manuscript with the preliminary assumption that the bulk of it was in English. Dr. Armitage knew, from the repeated failures of his colleagues, that the riddle was a deep and complex one, and that no simple mode of solution could merit even a trial. All through late August, he fortified himself with a massed lore of cryptography, drawing upon the fullest resources of his own library and waiting night after night amidst the arcana of Trithemius's Polygraphia, Giambattista Porta's De Patefacta, Davies and Thickness's 18th century treatises, and such fairly modern authorities as Blair, von Martin, and Kluber's Cryptographique. He interspersed his study of the books with attacks on the manuscript itself, and in time became convinced that he had to deal with one of those subtlest and most ingenious of cryptograms, in which many separate lists of corresponding letters are arranged like the multiplication table, and the message built up with arbitrary key words known only to the initiated. The older authorities seemed rather more helpful than the newer ones, and Armitage concluded that the code of the manuscript was one of great antiquity, no doubt handed through a long line of mystical experimenters. Several times he seemed near daylight, only to be set back by some unforeseen obstacle. Then, as September approached, the clouds began to clear. Certain letters, as used in certain parts of the manuscript, emerged definitely and unmistakably, and it became obvious that the text was indeed in English. On the evening of September 2nd, the last major barrier gave way, and Dr. Armitage read for the first time a continuous passage of Wilbur Whately's Annals. It was, in truth, a diary, as all had thought, and it was couched in a style clearly shewing the mixed occult erudition and general illiteracy of the strange being who wrote it. Almost the first long passage that Armitage deciphered, an entry dated November 26, 1916, proved highly startling and disquieting. It was written, he remembered, by a child of 3.5 who looked like a lad of 12 or 13. Today he learned the Aklo for the Sabbath. It ran, which did not like it being answerable from hills and not from the air. That upstairs more ahead of me than I thought it would be, and is not like to have much earth brain. Shot Elam Hutchkins' collie Jack when he went to bite me, and Elam says he would kill me if he dast. I guess he won't. Grandfather kept me saying the dough formula last night, and I think I saw the inner city at the 2 magnetic poles. I shall go to those poles when the earth is cleared off, if I can't break through with the dohna formula when I commit it. They from the air told me at Sabbath that it will be years before I can clear off the earth, and I guess grandfather will be dead then, so I shall have to learn all the angles of the planes and all the formulas between the year and the Nyinger. They from outside will help, but they cannot take body without human blood. That upstairs looks it will have the right cast. I can see it a little when I make the Voorish sign or blow the powder of Ibn Ghazi at it, and it is near like them at May Eve on the hill. The other face may wear off some. I wonder how I shall look when the earth is cleared and there are no earth beings on it. He said that came with the Aklo Sabaoth, said I may be transfigured, there being much of outside to work on. Yeah, I guess so, Jimbo. Morning found Dr. Armitage in a cold sweat of terror and a frenzy of wakeful concentration. He had not left the manuscript all night, but sat at his table under the electric light, turning page after page with shaking hands as fast as he could decipher the cryptic text. He had nervously telephoned his wife he would not be home, and when she brought him a breakfast from the house, he could scarcely dispose of a mouthful. All that day he read on, now and then halted maddeningly as a reapplication of the complex key became necessary. Lunch and dinner were brought him, but he ate only the smallest fraction of either. Toward the middle of the next night, he drowsed off in his chair, but soon woke out of a tangle of nightmares almost as hideous as the truths and menaces to a man's existence that he had uncovered. On the morning of September 4th, Professor Rice and Dr. Morgan insisted on seeing him for a while, and departed trembling and ashen gray. That evening he went to bed, but slept only fitfully. Wednesday, the next day, he was back at the manuscript and began to take copious notes, both from the current sections and from those he had already deciphered. In the small hours of that night he slept a little in an easy chair in his office, but was at the manuscript again before dawn. Sometime before noon, his physician, Dr. Hartwell, called in to see him and insisted that he cease work. He refused, intimating that it was of the most vital importance for him to complete the reading of the diary, and promising an explanation in due course of time. That evening, just as twilight fell, he finished his terrible perusal and sank back exhausted. His wife, bringing him dinner, found him in a half-comatose state, but he was conscious enough to warn her off with a sharp cry when he saw her eyes wander toward the notes he had taken. Weakly rising, he gathered up the scribbled papers and sealed them all in a great envelope, which he immediately placed in his inside coat pocket. He had sufficient strength to get home, but he was so clearly in need of medical aid that Dr. Hartwell was summoned at once. As the doctor put him to bed, he could only mutter over and over again, "But what in God's name can we do?" Dr. Armitage slept, but was partly delirious the next day. He made no explanations to Hartwell, but in his calmer moments spoke of the imperative need of a long conference with Rice and Morgan. His wilder wanderings were very startling indeed, including frantic appeals that something in a boarded-up farmhouse be destroyed, and fantastic references to some plan for the extirpation of the entire human race and all animal and vegetable life from Earth by some terrible elder race of beings from another dimension. He would shout that the world was in danger, since the elder things wished to strip it and drag it away from the solar system and cosmos of matter into some other plane or phase of entity from which it had once fallen. Vigintillions of aeons ago. At other times he would call for the dreaded Necronomicon and the Demonolatria of Remigius, in which he seemed hopeful of finding some formula to check the peril he conjured up. Stop them, he would shout. Those Watleys meant to let them in, and the worst of all is left. Tell Rice and Morgan we must do something. It's a blind business, but I know how to make the powder. It hasn't been fed since the 2nd of August, when Wilbur came here to his death, and at that rate... But Armitage had a sound physique despite his 73 years, and slept off his disorder that night without developing any real fever. He woke late Friday, clear of head, though sober, with a gnawing fear and tremendous sense of responsibility. Saturday afternoon, he felt able to go over to the library and summon Rice and Morgan for a conference. And the rest of that day and evening, the three men tortured their brains in the wildest speculation, and in the most desperate debate. Strange and terrible books were drawn voluminously from the stacked shelves and from secure places of storage, and diagrams and formulae were copied with feverish haste and in bewildering abundance. Of skepticism there was none. All three had seen the body of Wilbur Whatley as it lay on the floor in a room of that very building, and after that not one of them could feel even slightly inclined to treat the diary as a madman's raving. Opinions were divided as to notifying the Massachusetts State Police, and the negative finally won. There were things involved which simply could not be believed by those who had not seen a sample, as indeed was made clear during certain subsequent investigations. Late at night, the conference was disbanded without having developed a definite plan, but all day Sunday, Armitage was busy comparing formulae and mixing chemicals obtained from the college laboratory. The more he reflected on the hellish diary, the more he was inclined to doubt the efficacy of any material agent in stamping out the entity which Wilbur Whately had left behind him. The earth-threatening entity which, unknown to him, was to burst forth in a few hours and became the new memorable Dunwich Horror. Monday was a repetition of Sunday with Dr. Armitage, for the task in hand required an infinity of research and experiment. Further consultations of the monstrous diary brought about various changes of plan, and he knew that even in the end a large amount of uncertainty must remain. By Tuesday he had a definite line of action mapped out, and believed he would try a trip to Dunwich within a week. Then on Wednesday the great shock came. Tucked obscurely away in a corner of the Arkham Advertiser was a facetious little item from the Associated Press telling what a record-breaking monster the bootleg whiskey of Dunwich had raised up. Armitage, half stunned, could only telephone for Rice and Morgan. Far into the night they discussed, and the next day was a whirlwind of preparation on the part of them all. Armitage knew he would be meddling with terrible powers, yet saw that there was no other way to annul the deeper and more malign meddling which others had done before him. Friday morning, Armitage, Rich, Rice, and Morgan set out by motor for Dunwich, arriving at the village about 1 in the afternoon. The day was pleasant, but even in the brightest sunlight a kind of quiet dread and portent seemed to hover about the strangely domed hills and in the deep, shadowy ravines of the stricken region. Now and then on some mountain top a gaunt circle of stones could be glimpsed against the sky. From the air of hushed fright at Osborne's store they knew something hideous had happened, and soon learned of the annihilation of the Elmer Fry house and family. Throughout that afternoon they rode around Dunwich, questioning the natives concerning all that had occurred, and seeing for themselves with rising pangs of horror the drear Fry ruins with their lingering traces of the tarry stickiness, the blasphemous tracks in the Fry yard, the wounded Seth Bishop cattle, and the enormous swaths of disturbed vegetation in various places. The trail up and down Sentinel Hill seemed to Armitage of almost cataclysmic significance, and he looked long at the sinister altar like stone on the summit. At length the visitors, apprised of a party of state police which had come from Aylesbury that morning in response to the first telephone reports of the Fry tragedy, decided to seek out the officers and compare notes as far as practicable. This, however, they found more easily planned than performed, since no sign of the party could be found in any direction. There had been 5 of them in a car, but now the car stood empty near the ruins in the Fry yard. The natives, all of whom had talked with the policemen, seemed at first as perplexed as Armitage and his companions. Then old Sam Hutchins thought of something and turned pale, nudging Fred Farr and pointing to the dank, deep hollow that yawned close by. "God," he gasped. "I telled him not to go down in the glen. I never thought nobody'd do with them tracks and that smell the whippoorwills screeching down that dark old noonday." A cold shudder ran through natives and visitors alike, and every ear seemed strained in a kind of instinctive, unconscious listening. Armitage, now that he had actually come upon the horror and its monstrous work, trembled with the responsibility he felt to be his. Night would soon fall, and it was then that the mountainous blasphemy lumbered upon its eldritch course. Negotium parambulans in tenebris. The old librarian rehearsed the formulae he had memorized, and clutched the paper containing the alternative one he had not memorized. He saw that his electric flashlight was in working order. Rice, beside him, took from a valise a metal sprayer of the sort used in combating insects. whilst Morgan uncased the big game rifle on which he relied despite his colleagues' warnings that no material weapon would be of help. Armitage, having read the hideous diary, knew painfully well what kind of a manifestation to expect, but he did not add to the fright of the Dunwich people by giving any hints or clues. He hoped that it might be conquered without any revelation to the world of the monstrous thing it had escaped. As the shadows gathered, the natives commenced to disperse homeward, anxious to bar themselves indoors, despite the present evidence that all human locks and bolts were useless before a force that could bend trees and crush houses when it chose. They shook their heads at the visitors' plan to stand guard at the Fry ruins near the glen, and as they left, had little expectancy of ever seeing the watchers again. There were rumblings under the hills that night, and the whippoorwills piped threateningly. Once in a while, a wind sweeping up out of the cold spring glen would bring a touch of ineffable fetor to the heavy night air, such fetor as all three of the watchers had smelled once before, when they had stood above a dying thing that had passed for 15 years and a half as a human being. But the looked-for terror did not appear. Whatever was down there in the glen was biding its time, and Armitage told his colleagues it would be suicidal to try to attack it in the dark. Morning came wanly, and the night sounds ceased. It was a gray, bleak day with now and then a drizzle of rain, and heavier clouds seemed to be piling themselves up beyond the hills to the northwest. The men from Arkham were undecided what to do, seeking shelter from the increasing rainfall beneath one of the few undestroyed Fry outbuildings. They debated the wisdom of waiting, or of taking the aggressive and going down into the glen in quest of their nameless monstrous quarry. The downpour waxed in heaviness, and distant peals of thunder sounded from far horizons. Sheet lightning shimmered, and then a forky bolt flashed near at hand, as if descending into the accursed glen itself. The sky grew very dark, and the watchers hoped that the storm would prove a short, sharp one, followed by clear weather. It was still gruesomely dark when, not much over an hour later, a confused babble of voices sounded down the road. Another moment brought to view a frightened group of more than a dozen men, running, shouting, and even whimpering hysterically. Someone in the lead began sobbing out words, and the Arkham men started violently when those words developed a coherent form. "Oh my God, the voice choked out. "It's a-going again, and this time by day. It's out and moving this very minute. Only the Lord knows when it'll be on us all." The speaker panted into silence, but another took up his message. "Nigh on an hour ago, Zeb Whiteley here heard the phone a-ringing. It was Miss Corey, George's wife, that lives down by the junction. She says the hired boy Luther was out driving the cows by the storm after the big bolt, when you hear all these trees a-bending in the mouth of the glen opposite side to this, and smelt the same awful smell he smelt when he found the big tracks last Monday morning. And he says it was swishing, lapping sound, more nor what the bending trees and bushes could make, and all on a sudden the trees and the rud began to get pushed one side, and they was awful stomping and splashing in the mud. But mind you, Luther, he didn't see nothing at all, only just the bending trees and underbrush. Then fur ahead where Bishop's Brook goes under the road, you hear the awful creaking and straining on the bridge, and says he could tell the sound of wood starting to crack and split. And all the while he never seen nothing, only them trees and bushes a-bending. And when the swishing sound got very far off on the roads toward Wizard Watley's and Sentinel Hill, Luther, he had the guts to step up when he heard it first and look at that ground. It was all mud and water, and the sky was dark, and rain wiping out all the tracks about as fast as it could be. Begin at the glen mouth where the trees had moved. There were still some of them awful prints big as barrels like you seen Monday." At this point, the first excited speaker interrupted. "But that ain't the trouble now. That was only the start. Zeb here was calling folks up, and everybody was listening when they called from Seth Bishop's cutting in. His housekeeper, Sally, was carrying on a fit or kill. She just seen the trees abandoned and treading headed for the house. Then she up and spoke sudden a fearful smell, and she says her boy Chauncey was a screaming as how it was just like what he smelt up at the Watleys rewinds Monday morning. And the dogs was all barking and whining awful. And then she let out a terrible yell. Says the shed down the road just caved in like the stormy blow over. Only the wind wasn't strong enough to do that. Everybody was listening. We could hear lots of folk on the wire gasping. All the Unc Sally, she yelled again, and says the front yard picket fence just crumbled up. The way wasn't no sign who done it. And everybody online could hear Chauncey and old Seth Bishop you too, and Sally was shrieking about that something had struck the house, not lightning or nothing, but something heady again. The front kept launching itself again and again, and they couldn't see none about the front winders. And then, lines of fright deepened on every face, and Armitage, shaken as he was, had barely poise enough to prompt the speaker. And then, Sally, she yelled out, "Oh, help, the house is a-caving in!" And on the wire, we could hear a terrible crashing and a whole flock of screaming, just like when Elmer Fry's place was took, only worse. The men paused, and another of the crowd spoke. That's all, not a sound nor squeak over the phone after that. Just still like. We heard that it got out Fords and wagons and rounded up as many able-bodied menfolk as we could get at Corey's place and come up here to see what you thought best to do. Not but what I think is the Lord's judgment for our inquiries and no mortal kin ever set aside. Armitage saw that the time for positive action had come, and spoke decisively to the faltering group of frightened rustics. We must follow it, boys. He made his voice as reassuring as possible. I believe there's a chance of putting it out of business. You men know that those Watleys were wizards. Well, this thing is a thing of wizardry and must be put down by the same means. I've seen Wilbur Whatley's diary and read some of the strange old books he used to read, and I think I know the right kind of spell to recite to make the thing fade away. Of course, one can't be sure, but we can always take a chance. It's invisible, I knew it would be, but there's a powder in this long-distance sprayer that might make it shoo up for a second. Later on, we'll try it. It's a frightful thing to have alive, but it isn't as bad as what Wilbur would have let in if he lived longer. You'll never know what the world has escaped. Now we've only this one thing to fight, and it can't multiply. It can, though, do a lot of harm, so we mustn't hesitate to rid the community of it. We must follow it, and the way to begin is to go to the place that has just been wrecked. Let somebody lead the way. I don't know your roads very well, but I have an idea there might be a shorter cut across. How about it? The men shuffled about a moment, and Earl Sawyer spoke softly, pointing with a grimy finger through the steadily lessening rain. I guess you can get to Seth Bishop's quickest by cutting across the lower meadow here, widening the brook at the Blow Place, and climbing through Carrier's mowing and timber lot beyond. That comes out on the upper road, mighty nice sass, will lead to the other side. Armitage, with Rice and Morgan, started to walk in the direction indicated, and most of the natives followed slowly. The sky was growing lighter, and there were signs that the storm had worn itself away. When Armitage inadvertently took a wrong direction, Joe Osborne warned him and walked ahead to shoe the right one. Courage and confidence were mounting. Though the twilight of the almost perpendicular wooded hill, which lay toward the end of their shortcut, and among those fantastic ancient trees they had to scramble, as if up a ladder, put these qualities to a severe test. At length they emerged on a muddy road to find the sun coming out. They were a little beyond the Seth Bishop place, but bent trees and hideously unmistakable tracks shewed what had passed by. Only a few moments were consumed in surveying the ruins just around the bend. It was the Fry incident all over again, and nothing dead or living was found in either of the collapsed shells which had been the Bishop house and barn. No one cared to remain there amidst the stench and tarry stickiness, but all turned instinctively to the line of horrible prints leading on toward the wrecked Whatley farmhouse and the altar-crowned slopes of Sentinel Hill. As the men passed the sight of Wilbur Whatley's abode, they shuddered visibly and seemed again to mix hesitancy with their zeal. It was no joke tracking down something as big as a house that one could not see, but that had all the vicious malevolence of a demon. Opposite the base of Sentinel Hill, the tracks left the road, and there was a fresh bending and matting visible along the broad swath marking the monster's former route to and from the summit. Armitage produced a pocket telescope of considerable power and scanned the steep green side of the hill. Then he handed the instrument to Morgan, whose sight was keener. After a moment of gazing, Morgan cried out sharply, passing the glass to Earl Sawyer and indicating a certain spot on the slope with his finger. Sawyer, as clumsy as most non-users of optical devices are, fumbled a while, but eventually focused the lenses with Armitage's aid. When he did so, his cry was less restrained than Morgan's had been. "God almighty, the grass and bushes is a-movin'. It's going up, slow-like, creeping to the top this minute. Heaven only knows what fer." Then the germ of panic seemed to spread among the seekers. It was one thing to chase the nameless entity, but quite another to find it. Spells might be all right, but suppose they weren't? Voices began questioning Armitage about what he knew of the thing, and no reply seemed quite to satisfy. Everyone seemed to feel himself in close proximity to phases of nature and of being utterly forbidden and wholly outside the sane experience of mankind. In the end, the three men from Arkham, old white-bearded Dr. Armitage, stocky iron-gray Professor Rice, and lean youngish Dr. Morgan, ascended the mountain alone. After much patient instruction regarding its focusing and use, they left the telescope with the frightened group that remained in the road. And as they climbed, they were watched closely by those among whom the glass was passed around. It was hard going, and Armitage had to be helped more than once. High above the toiling group, the great swath trembled as its hellish maker repassed with snail-like deliberateness. Then it was obvious that the pursuers were gaining. Curtis Whatley of the undecayed branch was holding the telescope when the Arkham party detoured radically from the swath. He told the crowd that the men were evidently trying to get to a subordinate peak, which overlooked the swath at a point considerably ahead of where the shrubbery was now bending. This indeed proved to be true, and the party were seen to gain the minor elevation only a short time after the invisible blasphemy had passed it. Then Wesley Corey, who had taken the glass, cried out that Armitage was adjusting the sprayer which Rice had held, and that something must be about to happen. The crowd stirred uneasily, recalling that this sprayer was expected to give the unseen horror a moment of visibility. 2 or 3 men shut their eyes, but Curtis Whatley snatched back the telescope and strained his vision to the utmost. He saw that Rice, from the party's point of vantage above and behind the entity, had an excellent chance of spreading the potent powder with marvelous effect. Those without the telescope saw only an instant flash of gray cloud, a cloud about the size of a moderately large building near the top of the mountain. Curtis, who had held the instrument, dropped it with a piercing shriek into the ankle-deep mud of the road. He reeled and would have crumpled to the ground had not 2 or 3 others seized and steadied him. All he could do was moan half inaudibly. Oh, great God, that... There was a pandemonium of questioning, and only Henry Wheeler thought to rescue the fallen telescope and wipe it clean of mud. Curtis was past all coherence, and even isolated replies were almost too much for him. Bigger'n a barn, all made of squirmin' ropes, whole things sorta shaped like a hen's egg, bigger'n anything, with dozens of legs like hogs' heads that half shut up when they step. Nothing solid about it, all jelly-like and made of separate wriggling ropes pushed close together, great bulging eyes all over it, 10 or 20 mouths, or trunks a sticking out all the sides, big as stovepipes, and all tossing and opening and shutting, all gray with kinder blue or purple rings, and God in heaven, that half face on top. This final memory, whatever it was, proved too much for poor Curtis, and he collapsed completely before he could say more. Fred Farr and Will Hutchins carried him to the roadside and laid him on the damp grass. Henry Wheeler, trembling, turned to the rescued telescope on the mountain to see what he might. Through the lenses were discernible three tiny figures, apparently running toward the summit as fast as the steep incline allowed. Only these, nothing more. Then everyone noticed a strangely unseasonable noise in the deep valley behind, and even in the underbrush of Sentinel Hill itself. It was the piping of unnumbered whippoorwills, and in their shrill chorus there seemed to lurk a note of tense and evil expectancy. Earl Sawyer now took the telescope and reported the three figures as standing on the topmost ridge, virtually level with the altar stone, but at a considerable distance from it. One figure, he said, seemed to be raising its hands above its head at rhythmic intervals, and as Sawyer mentioned the circumstance, the crowd seemed to hear a faint, half-musical sound from the distance, as if a loud chant were accompanying the gestures. The weird silhouette on the remote peak must have been a spectacle of infinite grotesqueness and impressiveness, but no observer was in a mood for aesthetic appreciation. "I guess he's saying the spell," whispered Wheeler, as he snatched back the telescope. The whippoorwills were piping wildly, and in a singularly curious, irregular rhythm, quite unlike that of the visible ritual. Suddenly, the sunshine seemed to lessen without the intervention of any discernible cloud. It was a very peculiar phenomenon, and was plainly marked by all. A rumbling sound seemed brewing beneath the hills, mixed strangely with a concordant rumbling which clearly came from the sky. Lightning flashed aloft, and the wondering cloud looked in vain for the portents of the storm. The chanting of the men from Arkham now became unmistakable, and Wheeler saw through the glass that they were all raising their arms in the rhythmic incantation. From some farmhouse far away came the frantic barking of dogs. The change in the quality of daylight increased, and the crowd gazed about the horizon in wonder. A purplish darkness born of nothing more than a spectral deepening of the sky's blue, pressed down upon the rumbling hills. Then the lightning flashed again, somewhat brighter than before, and the crowd fancied that it had shewed a certain mistness around the altar stone on the distant height. No one, however, had been using the telescope at that instant. The whippoorwills continued their irregular pulsation, and the men of Dunwich braced themselves tensely against some imponderable menace with which the atmosphere seemed surcharged. Without warning came those deep, cracked, raucous vocal sounds which will never leave the memory of the stricken group who heard them. Not from any human throat they were born, for the organs of man can yield no such acoustic perversions. Rather, would one have said they came from the pit itself, had not their source been so unmistakably the altar stone on the peak. It is almost erroneous to call them sounds at all, since so much of their ghastly infra-bass timbre spoke to dim seats of consciousness and terror far subtler than the ear. Yet one must do so, since their form was indisputably, though vaguely, that of half-articulate words. They were loud as the rumblings, and the thunder above which they echoed, yet did they come from no visible being, and because imagination might suggest a conjectural source in the world of non-visible beings, the huddled crowd at the mountain's base huddled still closer and winced as if in expectation of a blow. Oh my god, how do I even read this? Yog Sothoth, rang the hideous croaking out of space. The speaking impulse seemed to falter here, as if some frightful psychic struggle were going on. Henry Wheeler strained his eye at the telescope, but saw only the three grotesquely silhouetted human figures on the peak, all moving their arms furiously in strange gestures as their incantations drew near its culmination. From what black wells of acherontic fear or feeling? From what unplumbed gulfs of extra-cosmic consciousness or obscure, long-latent heredity were those half-articulate thunder-croakings drawn? Presently, they began to gather renewed force and coherence as they grew in stark, utter, ultimate frenzy. Ya-ya-ya-ya-ha! Ya-ya-ya-ya! Nga! Nga! Ya! Help! Help! Father! Father! Yog-Sothoth! But that was all, the pallid group in the road still reeling at the indisputably English syllables that had poured thickly and thunderously down from the frantic vacancy beside that shocking altar stone, or never to hear such syllables again. Instead, they jumped violently at the terrific report which seemed to rend the hills, the deafening, cataclysmic peal whose source, be it in inner earth or sky, no hearer was ever able to place. A single lightning bolt shot from the purple zenith to the altar stone, and a great tidal wave of viewless force and indescribable stench swept down from the hills to all the countryside. Trees, grass, and underbrush were whipped into a fury, and the frightened crowd at the mountain's base, weakened by the lethal fetter that seemed about to asphyxiate them, were almost hurled off their feet. Dogs howled from the distance. Green grass and foliage wilted to a curious, sickly yellow-gray, and over field and forest were scattered the bodies of dead whippoorwills. The stench left quickly, but the vegetation never came right again. To this day, there is something queer and unholy about the growths on and around that fearsome hill. Curtis Whatley was only just regaining consciousness when the Arkham men came slowly down the mountain in the beams of sunlight, once more brilliant and untainted. They were grave and quiet and seemed shaken by memories and reflections, even more terrible than those which had reduced the group of natives to a state of cowed quivering. In reply to a jumble of questions, they only shook their heads and reaffirmed one vital fact. The thing is gone forever. Why-ay-ay-yo, why-ay-ay-yo, Armitage said. It has been split up into what it was originally made of and can never exist again. It was an impossibility in a normal world. Only the least fraction was really matter in any sense we know. It was like its father, and most of it has gone back to him in some vague realm or dimension outside our material universe. Some vague abyss out of which only the most accursed rites of human blasphemy could ever have called him for a moment on the hills. There was a brief silence, and in that pause the scattered senses of poor Curtis Whatley began to knit back into a sort of continuity, so that he put his hands to his head with a moan. Memory seemed to pick itself up where it had left off, and the horror of the sight that had prostrated him burst in upon him again. Oh my God, that half face on top of it, that face with the red eyes and crinkly albino hair and no chin like the Whatleys. It was an octopus, a centipede, a spider kind of thing, but there was a half-shaped man's face on top of it. It looked like Wizard Whatley's, only it was yards and yards across. He paused exhausted as the whole group of natives stared in a bewilderment not quite crystallized into fresh terror. Only old Zebulon Whatley, who wanderingly remembered ancient things but who had been silent heretofore, spoke aloud. 15 years gone, he rambled, I heerd old Whatley say as how some day we'd hear a child of Lavinia's a-callin' its father's name atop of Sentinel Hill. But Joe Osborne interrupted him to question the Arkham men anew. What was it anyhow? And however did young Wizard Whatley call it out of the air it come from? Armitage chose his words very carefully. It was mostly a kind of force that doesn't belong in our part of space. A kind of force that acts and grows and shapes itself by other laws than those of our sort of nature. We have no business calling in such things from outside, and only very wicked people and very wicked cults ever try to. There was some of it in Wilbur Whatley himself, enough to make a devil and a precocious monster of him, and to make his passing out a pretty terrible sight. I'm going to burn his accursed diary, and if you men are wise, you'll dynamite that altar stone up there and pull down all the rings of standing stones on the other hills. Things like that brought down the beings those Whatleys were so fond of. The beings they were going to let in tangibly to wipe out the human race and drag the earth off to some nameless place for some nameless purpose. But as to do this thing we've just sent back, the Whatleys raised it for a terrible part in the doings that were to come. It grew fast and big, from the same reason that Wilbur grew fast and big, but it beat him because it had a greater share of the outsideness in it. You needn't ask how Wilbur called it out of the air. He didn't call it out. It was his twin brother, but it looked more like the father than he did. Well, there you go. That was the Dunwich Horror. You ate your burgers, and then you had to do laundry. You've been listening? Okay. Alrighty, well, I think that is enough for today. We're almost 4 hours. I don't want to kill my throat like last week. I could barely talk for a couple days afterwards. But look at that. We're like... I was going to say we're about halfway through, because we're about halfway through the list here. But no, we're at like page 140 out of like almost 600, so yeah. We are not halfway through. But yeah. We're halfway through the stories. Almost a quarter through? Yeah. Yes, no throat killing, please. Some stories are longer than others. They sure are. The Dunwich Horror was the longest one yet. The next one is even longer. No? Yeah. Dunwich Horror here was about 37 pages. The Whisper in Darkness, yeah, is about like 57, so a bit longer. And then the next one after that is even longer. And then the next one after that is about 100 pages. And then we're looking at about 50 pages, and then about 30 pages. 13. Okay. Yeah, I think The Shadow of Our Innsmouth is probably the longest singular story in here. Yeah, that one's... yeah, that one's almost 100 pages. Well, we made a dent in the book. How about that? Yeah, we made a dent. We made a bit of a dent. I don't think we're going to be able to finish this thing this October, but you know, made a good chunk out of it. And we'll do The Whisperer in Darkness next week then. Alright then. Let's see, when was this one printed? The one we just read. Let's take a look. The Dunwich Horror appeared in Weird Tales, April 1929. Oh, okay. But that's a very expensive issue. That's cool. Pretty cool. The next one was Weird Tales, August 1931. Okay. Okie dokie. Alrighty, well, thank you for hanging out, everybody. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoy it. Yeah, oh, Walter's playing Diablo now. Okay, well, alright, let's go raid Walter. I want to go watch him play some Diablo. Hopefully he doesn't hate it. Thanks, Matt. Good stuff. Alright, well, thank you guys for coming in. Hope you have a good week. And, yeah, I'll see you later. Either tomorrow, or if I don't do it tomorrow, then probably maybe Tuesday. I don't know. We'll see. Thank you for stream, Master Mitt. Thanks. Alright, goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Don't let the Elder Gods eat you.